Chapter 1964. Dragon. You're actually a dragon. The Earth Demon screamed. He did not expect to meet a dragon here. Isn't that a legendary creature that only existed in ancient times? It should be extinct now. But why did it appear now? He was too shocked. As a 7-star demon king, he knew more. Although the current powerful demon kings had the bloodline of the dragon race, they were not real dragons. They were flood dragons. The real dragon race only existed in ancient times. Now, they could not be seen at all. But he did not expect to see a real dragon flying in the sky. A dragon that only existed in legends. This made it extremely terrified. Damn it, who is this kid? Why does he have a dragon by his side? The Earth Demon Beast did not dare to think. He turned into a demon cloud and flew in another direction. He knew that he could not continue fighting because he could not fight at all. If the two of them worked together, they could definitely kill him. So, he had to escape. However, in the next moment, he was stunned because there was a white, furry little monkey in front of him, blocking his way. Woo woo woo. The snow-white little monkey kept gesturing, telling the Earth Devil Beast to obediently give up and not run away. This ignited the Earth Demon Beast's anger. I can't beat the human brat, and I can't beat the mystical dragon. You're just a little white monkey, and you're so tiny. How dare you block my way? You're not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. So in the next moment, the Earth Demon Beast roared and spat out a ball of flames that swept forward. He was Demon King Qixing. Since when did a small monkey dare to block his way? But in the next moment, the white monkey's body swayed and turned into a white bolt of lightning, dodging the flames in the sky. In an instant, he arrived in front of the Earth Demon Beast. He stretched out his furry paw and slapped the Earth Demon Beast's face. Suddenly, the Earth Devil Beast felt the sky darken, and its entire body became dizzy. Before he fainted, he was still thinking, what kind of monkey is this? It's too evil. Who is that young man? Why does he have so many mutated creatures around him? Each of them is a legendary existence. Boom. At this moment, Lin Xin attacked again. The demonic sword in his hand transformed into a giant sword that was hundreds of meters long, and he ruthlessly slashed at the Earth Devil Beast. Immediately, a deep gash appeared in the ground, and the Earth Devil Beast fell to the ground. However, as a 7-star Beast King, the Earth Devil Beast was extremely powerful. Therefore, this attack was not enough to kill him. However, Lin Xin didn't plan to waste any time. He immediately joined forces with the Crimson Dragon and the Snow White Monkey. When the three of them joined forces, their might was unimaginable. A single Earth Devil Beast was no match for him. Therefore, half a day later, the Earth Devil Beast was killed, and blood flowed everywhere. Lin Xin didn't let go of this opportunity and immediately started practicing the demon-slaying sword array. Streaks of mysterious sword runes appeared and merged with the blood. The Earth Devil Beast's demon soul was extracted and integrated into the sword array. The demon-slaying sword array was quickly taking shape. As for Lin Xin, he stood in the center of the sword formation. He was like a sword demon, capable of slashing the heavens and splitting the earth. In a city closest to Wanling Mountain, there was a piece of news circulating. It was said that a mysterious young expert had appeared in Wanling Mountain. His strength was unfathomable and had far surpassed the seniors. It was even rumored that he had killed the Earth Devil Beast's avatar with a gentle wave of his hand. What? He killed the Earth Devil Beast's avatar so easily? How is this possible? Isn't the Earth Devil Beast a 7-star Beast King? No matter how powerful the younger generation is, they can't defeat a mighty demon beast. Are you kidding? Who said it's a joke? This news came from the Lu Mansion. Yes, it said that the elders of the Lu Mansion brought people to Wanling Mountain to collect spiritual herbs. In the end, they were chased by the Earth Devil Beast. Exactly. A young man in a red robe saved them. Could it be true? Everyone was discussing. As the Lu Mansion was one of the top families in the city, their words shouldn't be wrong. What does the mysterious young man look like? Where is his sect? At this moment, someone asked. This person sounded young, but his face couldn't be seen. This was because he was wearing a loose black robe that covered his body. His skin was pale and his eyes were twinkling like stars. I heard that he's a young man in his 20s. He's wearing a red robe. I don't know the details. If you want to know the details, go to the Liu Mansion. The news came from there. Liu Mansion? The mysterious man in a black robe said plainly. Then, his body swayed and turned into green smoke, disappearing from the spot. The Liu Mansion was one of the top families in the city. At this moment, an old man was sitting in a palace. It was the white-haired old man who had asked Lin Xian for help previously. Beside him was a lady in a green robe. It was the lady named Schwerer from before. Grandfather, that young man in a red robe, which sacred ground's genius is he from? Isn't he a little too powerful? Can he really defeat the Earth Devil Beast? The white-haired old man shook his head slightly. The Earth Devil Beast is a real 7-star beast king. Its strength is terrifying. It's equivalent to a human almighty. Although that young man in a red robe is powerful, it's still impossible for him to kill a almighty. Even a saint can't kill a almighty. Will he be in danger? Hearing the white-haired old man's words, the lady in a green robe was a little worried. Schwerer, you shouldn't ask about that young master. You're not even from the same world. The white-haired old man sighed. At least you have some self-awareness. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Who was it? Hearing this, the white-haired old man and the lady in a green robe were both shocked. The white-haired old man roared. His voice was like a wave that spread in all directions. He was too shocked. He didn't expect that someone would come to his side without him noticing. The person who came was definitely an expert. Therefore, in the next moment, he wanted to shout and alert the experts in his family. It's useless. Stop struggling. The entire palace is covered by my domain. You can't spread the news. At this moment, the cold voice sounded again. Then, the void in the palace fluctuated and a figure came out. It was a man in a black robe. Even his head was covered by a large cloak, making it impossible to see his true appearance. Who are you? What are you doing here? The white-haired old man asked coldly. His muscles were tense, and the spiritual energy in his body was circulating rapidly. As long as the other party made any dangerous moves, he would explode immediately. The lady in a green robe was also very nervous. Standing beside the white-haired old man, her beautiful eyes were filled with fear. Chapter 1965. She had never imagined that such a strange person would appear in her home. The black-robed man didn't speak any superfluous words. Instead, he coldly said, "Tell me everything you know about that red-clothed youth. Don't miss a single detail." What? You were looking for that red-clothed youth? The white-haired old man was stunned. He hadn't expected that this black-robed man would come for their benefactor. As for the green-clothed woman, she coldly snorted. You want to inquire about that red-clothed youth? Dream on. Humph. It seems that you still don't understand your current situation. The black-robed man sneered. Then, he stretched out his pale hand and gently waved it. The green-clothed woman immediately cried out in alarm. She felt the surrounding air solidify. It was as if an invisible cage had bound her body. Soon after, a mysterious power pulled her to the black-robed man's side. Buzz. In the next instant, countless golden rays of light appeared and enveloped the woman. The golden rays of light were like lightning blades. They instantly cut open the green-clothed woman's clothes. Bloody scars appeared on her snow-white skin. The green-clothed woman screamed. She was incomparably frightened and in pain. The white-haired old man also angrily roared, "Stop! If you dare to harm my Schwerer's life, I will fight you to the death." He hadn't expected that this mysterious black-robed man would be so arrogant as to instantly control Schwerer. "I will give you a chance. Tell me everything you know about that red-clothed youth. Otherwise, your granddaughter will lose her life." "Fine. I will tell you everything." The white-haired old man clenched his teeth. He had no choice but to tell the black-robed man everything he knew. After hearing this, the black-robed man's eyes flickered. "You are saying that there is a dark red snake beside him? It seems that it is him. Brat, even if you flee to the ends of the earth, I will still capture you. Since you dare to cause trouble in my all beginnings holy land, there will be no way for you to survive." "What? You are someone from the All Beginnings Holy Land? The white-haired old man was shocked. He hadn't expected that this strange and mysterious black-robed man would be an expert from the All Beginnings Holy Land. Humph, you know too much. The black-robed man coldly snorted. He waved his hand and countless golden rays of light instantly pierced through the green-clothed woman. No, damn it, I will fight you to the death. When the white-haired old man saw this scene, he roared madly. He didn't expect that the red-clothed young man would still make a move after he revealed his information. In the next moment, he roared and struck out with both palms. With a wave of his sleeves, two massive palms struck forward. A wave-like shadow appeared between the palms of the raging waves. Humph! He was overestimating himself. The black-robed man smiled contemptuously. Then, with a flick of his finger, a golden ray of light turned into a huge golden saber and slashed forward. Suddenly, the terrifying palm was cut open. Not only that, but the white-haired old man's body also stiffened. A bloody wound appeared between his eyebrows, and blood quickly flowed out. Finally, he fell to the ground with a plop. A piece of trash actually wants to fight with me? The black-robed man sneered and shook his head. Then, he ignored the two of them. His entire body instantly disappeared. At the same time, the king's domain outside the palace disappeared in an instant. Wanling Mountain Range. Lin Xian flew rapidly. He was already very close to the depths of Wanling Mountain Range. However, the closer he got to the depths, the slower he became. That was because he felt an unknown pressure. The number of monster kings here was obviously much less than outside, but their auras were much stronger than outside. Every single one of them was a terrifying existence. Just the monster chi that they emitted was unbearable for ordinary kings. Fortunately, Lin Xian wasn't an ordinary person. His physique was strong. Once the great dragon sword soul was released, it could destroy the pressure. That was why he could continue moving forward. However, he was still careful, because many of the monster kings here lived in groups. Once those monster kings came out, they were extremely terrifying. Even an almighty would have to retreat. Lin Xian usually didn't provoke such monster kings who lived in groups. However, the corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up. Obviously, he was very satisfied because not long ago, she had refined the earth demon's monster soul and blood and completed the most basic demon-slaying sword formation. The demon-slaying sword formation was extremely terrifying. Even if she didn't use the great dragon sword soul, not many people below the Almighty could resist the demon-slaying sword formation. Moreover, this was only the most basic demon-slaying sword formation. As he killed more monster beasts and obtained more monster souls, the power of the demon-slaying sword formation would gradually increase. Soon, it seemed that it wouldn't be long before he reached the super teleportation formation. By then, he would be able to activate the teleportation formation and leave the southern region. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he scanned the surroundings with his soul power. However, he soon frowned. This was because he felt an extremely majestic aura coming towards him quickly. Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect to find other people in the depths of Wanling Mountain Range. Moreover, this aura was very strong. It should be an almighty. Lin Xian didn't know who was coming, so his figure flashed and he was prepared to change his path. However, he realized that once he changed his path, the almighty in the distance also changed his path and was still coming towards him. Humph! Seeing this, Lin Xian frowned. It was obvious that this person was coming for him. Thinking of this, his face turned gloomy and there was a sharp look in his eyes. Whoosh! Before long, the void flashed. Not far in front of Lin Xian, a figure appeared. It was a black-robed man. The wide black robe covered his entire body, making it impossible to see his appearance. One could only see an ice-cold gaze. It was like the boundless starry sky, deep and mysterious. Brat, it's really you. However, you're quite good at hiding. You actually came to the depths of Wanling Mountain Range. Ordinary people wouldn't expect this. The mysterious black-robed man said coldly. Who are you? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. At the same time, the black-robed man coldly snorted. What do I have to hide? Brat, you're quite stubborn. You dared to come to my All Beginnings Holy Lands market. Do you really think you can just walk away like this? All Beginnings Holy Land? Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect this person to be someone from the All Beginnings Holy Land. The fact that the other party was able to find this place was beyond his expectations. In the next moment, he coldly asked, "Are you from the fifth bloodline?" "That's right, I am from the fifth bloodline. Since you dared to kill an almighty from my fifth bloodline, today will be the day you die. You know that I can kill an almighty, yet you still dare to chase after me? I have to say that you are really an idiot." Lin Xian sneered. He could feel that the mysterious black-robed man's aura had reached the level of an almighty. It was clear that this person was a powerhouse. But so what? His cultivation had already made a breakthrough. In addition to the demon-slaying sword array he had just learned, he could already kill an almighty by himself. As for the black-robed man, he didn't know this. He coldly sneered. "I've already asked. You used a special spirit boat to kill an almighty. With your strength alone, it is impossible for you to contend against an almighty." After saying this, he stared at Lin Xian with a deep gaze. Then, he casually said, "Don't worry." Chapter 1966. The Cultivation of a Six-Star King. It seems you broke through again. Previously, I received news that you were only a 5-star king. I didn't expect you to break through in such a short time. Brat, you are truly amazing. However, you are still nothing in front of me. I advise you to obediently sever your own arms and cripple your own cultivation. Then, kneel before me and follow me back to the All Beginnings Holy Land. When I'm in a good mood, I can leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, you should know what will happen to you. Ridiculous. Lin Xian coldly snorted. Are you done speaking? If you are, you can scram. Brat, you are truly courting death. I don't believe that such a powerful spirit boat can be used without limit. After saying this, the black-robed man coldly snorted. His body emitted a powerful aura. Strong winds swept through the surroundings, causing his black robe to flutter loudly. The cloak covering his head was also blown away, revealing a handsome and young face. Upon seeing the other party's appearance, Lin Xian was somewhat surprised. This person was younger than he had imagined. The other party seemed to be in his 30s. However, Lin Xian knew that this person couldn't possibly be that young. After all, he had never seen a 30-year-old almighty before. Are you surprised? Let me tell you, I am 142 years old this year. I am the youngest almighty of the fifth bloodline. When I was your age, I was one of the candidates of the All Beginnings Holy Land. Now, I have already become an almighty. In terms of talent, I don't lose to you. In terms of strength, you are inferior to me. What qualifications do you think you have to be arrogant in front of me? The black-robed man said coldly. That's why I said, brat, you'd better surrender obediently. The youngest almighty? Lin Xian's lips curled up. He hadn't expected that the black-robed man before him was also a genius. Moreover, he was a candidate of the previous generation. If that was the case, things would become even more interesting. In the next instant, he moved his body. Crackling sounds came from his body. Lin Xian indifferently said, I just broke through and needed an opponent. I didn't expect that you would take the initiative to deliver yourself to me. Since that's the case, I will accept you. Remember my name. My name is Shangguanqi. I will be your nightmare for the rest of your life. Then, a golden radiance appeared on his body and spread out in all directions. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the blink of an eye, the golden light enveloped a radius of 1,000 miles, forming a huge energy shield that enveloped the entire space. Shangguanqi, on the other hand, was floating in the void. His robe fluttered, and his handsome face shone brightly. I've already used my domain to seal this space. You can fight to your heart's content. You don't have to worry about disturbing the other monster kings. I'll give you a chance. I'll let you make 3 moves. After 3 moves, I'll make my move. Shangguanqi said calmly. I hope you can seize this opportunity. In these 3 moves, use your strongest move, because once these 3 moves pass, you won't have any power to fight back. Humph. Hearing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. This guy was really confident. However, Shang Guanqi did have the right to be confident. The other party was a mighty figure, and he was only a little over 100 years old. A mighty figure at this age could be said to be a peerless genius. Unfortunately, he met Lin Xian. Giving me 3 moves? Good. Since you're so polite, I'll accept it. Lin Xian sneered. Then, the light in his eyes became brighter and a sharp aura exuded from his body. A pitch-black demon sword appeared in his hand. It looked like it was made of black jade, and there were mysterious demon runes on it. Buzz. In the next instant, Lin Xian made his move. A sword radiance shot up into the sky. Lin Xian pulled out the 9 darkness demon sword and slashed down like a rainbow. Boom. Just as the sword was about to land, a dragon's roar was heard. Then, the sword chi was covered with dragon scales. It looked like a huge dragon that appeared in the sky. Seeing this, Shang Guanqi frowned. This was because he realized that the sword chi's aura was too powerful. It was not much different from the power of an almighty being. This change made Shang Guanqi's face change. He didn't expect the other party to be so powerful. Boom. He was struck by the lightning and was sent flying. Wherever it passed, the void would quickly shatter. Brat, you're courting death. Shang Guanqi spat out a mouthful of blood. His handsome face became extremely ferocious. His deep eyes were red and filled with strong murderous intent. Lin Xian, on the other hand, laughed coldly. The youngest almighty? The successor of the previous generation? How awe-inspiring. But why can't you even block one of my attacks? Oh right, you said you'd give me 3 moves. This is only the first move. There are 2 more moves left. I hope you won't fight back. Hearing this, Shang Guanqi was so angry that he spat out blood. He roared crazily. Brat, you're courting death. You've successfully angered me. I take back what I said, but I've decided that I'll make you beg for death, but you won't be able to die. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Shang Guanqi moved. Violent energy surged out of his body. He turned into a bolt of lightning and charged towards Lin Xian. He threw out a punch. His fist was glowing. The void trembled. The golden light on Shang Guanqi's body was like a golden flame that lit up the entire sky. Boom. The terrifying fist blasted towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted and slashed out with the 9 darkness demonic sword. The black sword light seemed to have rushed out from hell. It carried a cold aura and violent power. In the next moment, it collided with the golden fist. The collision of the 2 caused an earth-shattering sound. The surrounding forests and mountains were instantly sent flying. Nothing could stop the aftermath of the explosion. Shang Guanqi's face darkened because he realized that his fist had been blocked by Lin Xian's sword. This made him even more surprised. If he had been careless and allowed Lin Xian to sneak attack him, he had used all his strength now. However, Lin Xian was still able to block his fist. This really surprised him. Humph! Shang Guanqi snorted. His body shone with golden light. Then, his body enlarged and turned into a giant. Not only that, golden light condensed on both sides of his body, forming 3 heads and 6 arms. This was a magical divine power. Legend had it that in ancient times, there was a golden divine ape that had 3 heads and 6 arms. That kind of divine power was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian did not expect Shang Guanqi to have such a divine power. He had to admit that as the successor of the previous generation of saints, he had become a mighty at the age of 100. He definitely had the right to be proud. This kind of power was still terrifying. Even those mighty who had lived for thousands of years might not be able to unleash such power. Shang Guanqi unleashed his 3 heads and 6 arms. His 6 palms quickly formed a whirlpool and pressed down on Lin Xian. The void cracked in an instant. This kind of divine power attack was too shocking. Even a mighty would have to deal with it carefully. Chapter 1967. If he was not careful, he might be killed by the golden vortex. However, Lin Xian was not afraid. Facing the 6 vortexes and the terrifying 3 heads and 6 arms, he snorted coldly. Light flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, countless sword runes spread out in all directions. A huge sword array was quickly formed. The sword array was blood red, and it had a strong, murderous aura as soon as it appeared. It was as if a sea of blood had appeared. The pungent smell of blood made Shang Guanqi frown. Demon-slaying sword array. Kill. Lin Xian snorted coldly as the blood-red sword aura flashed. Then, a terrifying blood-red sword aura shot up into the sky and slashed forward. Boom, boom, boom. The 6 huge golden vortexes were blocked and hit by the blood-red sword aura. Some of them flew backward, and some were split open. This is the demon-slaying sword array. You have cultivated the demon-slaying sword array. Shang Guanqi's face changed when he saw the blood-red sword array. Obviously, he had heard of the demon-slaying sword array. However, he knew that it was difficult to cultivate the demon-slaying sword array. Even the members of the 5th bloodline, who possessed such a formation, were unable to use it. However, he did not expect Lin Xian to have mastered it. It was unbelievable. Lin Xian must have gotten the array from the 5th line. However, it had only been slightly more than a month and Lin Xian had already mastered it. Lin Xian's incredible speed was unbelievable. Impossible. Damn it. That's impossible. Shang Guanqi roared crazily. However, he soon calmed down. He was also a peerless genius. He knew that even if Lin Xian had mastered the demon-slaying sword array, he had not cultivated it for long. Lin Xian did not have many monster souls and could not unleash the true power of the demon-slaying sword array. And this was also his chance. Therefore, Shang Guanqi sneered in the next moment. Kid, I don't know how you managed to cultivate it, but do you think you can defeat me with this newly formed array? You are too naive. I have cultivated the 3-head 6-armed superpower for more than 100 years. It is definitely not something that your newly formed demon-slaying sword array can withstand. So, go to hell. Shang Guanqi sneered and threw out a punch. Suddenly, the terrifying golden fist was like a huge golden mountain, rushing out quickly. This display was too powerful. It was not just one fist, but 6 fists roaring in the air. It was as if 6 peerless golden flood dragons were stirring the void. Lin Xian's expression was solemn as well. He had to admit that his opponent was indeed powerful. This 3-head 6-arms mystique made him feel rather troubled. If it were an ordinary King Realm expert, they might not be able to do anything to him. However, Lin Xian was different. Not only did he have the demon-slaying sword array, but he also had the great dragon sword soul. Even though he had just started cultivating the demon-slaying sword formation and was unable to unleash its full power, he still had the great dragon sword soul. The powerful might of the great dragon sword soul was enough to make up for all the deficiencies. In the next moment, the great dragon sword soul within Lin Xian's body began to circulate, and the demon-slaying sword formation beneath his feet began to vibrate violently. Then, a beam of sword chi rushed out and turned into a blood dragon that roared. Boom! With a roar, the entire void shook violently, as if it was going to pierce through the entire sky. The peerless sword chi turned into a true dragon that waved its tail in the air and directly resisted the 6 golden fists. An intense collision sounded. The void was torn apart, and large cracks appeared one after another. It was unknown just how many li they extended. What? How could his sword chi be so powerful? Shang Guanqi frowned again. According to his speculation, the demon-slaying sword formation should not have been so powerful when it was first formed. However, how could his opponent block his 6 fists with just one beam of sword chi? This level of sword chi was too terrifying. Kill! Shang Guanqi roared as the golden light on his body turned into balls of golden flames that burned fiercely. The 6 fists looked as if they were cast in gold, and mysterious runes appeared on them. Incomparably violent energy was being waved rapidly. It instantly shattered the void and pierced through it. The golden flames were like a divine furnace that released a terrifying temperature. At this moment, Shang Guanqi was too powerful. He was like a golden god of war that was unstoppable. Buzz! Lin Xian, on the other hand, activated the demon-slaying sword formation. Instantly, streaks of sword aura shot out like gigantic blood dragons that danced about at high speed. However, that was not all. Another beam of crimson sword chi shot up to the sky and turned into a crimson-white tiger. It roared ferociously, and its powerful murderous aura was like that of a god of death. The blood-red tiger let out a roar and charged toward Shang Guanqi. Get lost. Seeing this, Shang Guanqi roared and waved his 6 arms. At the same time, his 3 heads emitted a dazzling radiance. Instantly, the crimson-white tiger was torn apart. Boom. However, as soon as his attack landed, another giant crimson-black tortoise shot up to the sky. Its huge body was like a huge pot lid that covered the entire sky. As the tortoise fell, the surrounding mountains collapsed as they could not withstand its power. Clang, clang, clang. Shang Guanqi felt an immense pressure. The crimson-black tortoise above him was like a real divine beast. It carried a weight of billions of pounds, and it made his body ache. Even the golden flames on her body had dimmed. Damn it! What kind of superpower is this? Shang Guanqi roared crazily, and his face was filled with shock. That was because he realized that it was different from the demon-slaying sword formation that he knew. Boom! The giant crimson-black tortoise pressed down. Even though Shang Guanqi was extremely powerful, he was still sent flying. He landed 3,000 meters below the ground. Frightening cracks spread in all directions as the golden flames on his body dimmed. In fact, cracks had even appeared on his golden body. From this, one could imagine how frightening that attack earlier was. Kid, I'm going to kill you. Shang Guanqi roared and charged up from 3,000 meters below the ground. His body was golden as if it was indestructible. However, if one looked closely, they would see that there were many cracks on his golden body. It was like broken porcelain. It was caused by Lin Xian's sword aura. Kill me? You won't have the chance. Lin Xian snorted. I now have the strength to kill a mighty. You're no match for me. He was very confident as he waved his arm. Suddenly, the demon-slaying sword formation shone brightly again. Every ray of sword aura was like a comet that shone brightly. It caused the surrounding space to crack. The entire demon-slaying sword formation carried 10,000 rays of sword aura. It was a few thousand meters long, and it completely drowned Shang Guanqi. Boom, 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 boom. Continuous explosions and terrifying energy roared. Fortunately, the space was still sealed by Shang Guanqi before this. Otherwise, such a terrifying attack would definitely attract the powerful monster kings around. But now, the threat was eliminated. When the 10,000 rays of sword aura disappeared, Shang Guanqi fell to the ground and he was dying. His eyes were dim and lifeless, and there was even a deep fear in them. Chapter 1968. He didn't expect Qianqi to be so powerful that even he couldn't compete with him. But how was that possible? He was a mighty one, the youngest mighty one. He had the potential to become a peerless almighty. He might even become a sage in the future. But now, a young man in his 20s who was only a 6-star king had defeated him. He couldn't accept it. Perhaps even the current saint of all beginnings couldn't do this. But Qianqi did it. What realm had the red-robed young man reached? What kind of heaven-defying existence was he? Shang Guanqi didn't dare to imagine. He wanted to report the news to the sect because if such an enemy grew up, it would definitely be a disaster. But he had no hope. Another sharp sword light pierced through his body. Shang Guanqi felt the vitality in his body flowing quickly. In the next moment, he couldn't feel anything. His head had been chopped off, and his soul had been destroyed by the great dragon sword soul. This powerful being of the 5th lineage, the youngest almighty being, was killed by Lin Xian at this very moment. If others knew the news, they would go crazy and be shocked. Because it was too heaven-defying. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief and withdrew the demon-slaying sword formation. Although the battle was very short, he used all his strength in every attack. He didn't have any carelessness. After all, Shang Guanqi was a very difficult opponent. Because of that, he used all his strength to make the battle end so quickly. After all, in a battle between experts, sometimes one move could determine the winner. After killing Shang Guanqi, Qianqi raised his hand and shot out a black flame, burning Shang Guanqi's body to ashes. In the next moment, he turned around and continued to head toward the depths of Thousand Spirit Mountain. 2 days later, Lin Xian used the super teleportation formation to leave the southern region. Because of the teleportation formation, Lin Xian came to the western region of the eastern wilderness. His next goal was simple, which was to continue to cultivate and strive to break through as soon as possible to become a true almighty. Therefore, after coming to the western region, Lin Xian went to the mountains and swamps to look for treasures. He cultivated here for half a year. During this half a year, his cultivation stabilized, and his strength slowly increased. Not only that, but the entire eastern wilderness also gradually calmed down. The All Beginnings Holy Land searched crazily, but they still couldn't find Lin Xian. The Wavering Light Holy Land was the same. They couldn't find him, so they could only gnash their teeth in anger. Not only that, but the All Beginnings Holy Land also spread the news. With her great talent and outstanding strength, Lu Mingyue became the new saintess of All Beginnings. This news spread throughout the entire eastern wilderness. For a time, everyone. As for the people of the All Beginnings Holy Land's fifth bloodline, they were enraged to the point of going crazy. Their peerless experts even smashed several dozen mountain peaks in succession. But no matter what they did, they couldn't change Lin Xian, who was far away in the western regions, also received the news. Immediately, he narrowed his eyes. Lu Mingyue had become the new saintess, so it was time to reap the benefits. Teet 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 teet, teet teet ts Lin Xian set off and teleported back to the southern region. He met with Lu Mingyue. This time, they met in the depths of the Myriad Spirit Mountain Range. The All Beginnings Holy Land's fifth bloodline was in a frenzy. As long as they had any news about Lin Xian, they would send out their almighties. Even those almighties were crazily attacking him. Therefore, Lin Xian didn't go to the All Beginnings Holy Land. Instead, he invited Lu Mingyue to meet him in the Myriad Spirit Mountain Range. After not seeing her for half a year, Lu Mingyue had become even more outstanding. Her entire body emitted a pure and holy aura. She was like a fairy descending from the heavens. Nothing could be more beautiful. Streams of primal chaos chi began to descend from her surroundings. They shrouded her like rays of sunlight. Lu Mingyue stretched out her hand and took out a small box. She slowly opened it. Multicolored light soared into the clouds and illuminated the sky. Here are 10 pieces of nerves, 10 pieces of divine crystals. Lin Xian was extremely shocked when he heard this. His eyes were burning with excitement. He couldn't help but admit that Lu Mingyue was truly generous. It seemed that helping Lu Mingyue become the new saintess was the correct choice. One had to know that he had risked his life and offended so many major powers and powerful characters in order to obtain 9 pieces of divine crystals. But now, Lu Mingyue had given him 10 pieces of divine crystals. This happiness had come too suddenly. Not only that, but Lu Mingyue also took out a second box. Inside it were all kinds of heavenly treasures, spiritual medicines, spiritual pills, weapons, and defensive equipment. I can't give you the All Beginnings Holy Land's cultivation technique. So, I'm giving you these heavenly treasures as compensation. Then, she gave Lin Xian a white jade pendant. This jade pendant can transmit information to me. If you need me for anything in the future, you can use this jade pendant to transmit information to me. Of course, the distance is within 100,000 miles. Finally, I'm giving you 2 mineral veins. As for what you can dig out from them, that will depend on your luck. Holy shit. 2 mineral veins. This girl's hands were simply too big. One had to know that mineral veins were different from divine crystals. They were tangible, but mineral veins couldn't be probed to see how many things were inside. It could be said that every mineral vein was the lifeline of a holy land. He didn't expect that Lu Mingyue would actually give him 2 mineral veins. Of course, he knew that these mineral veins couldn't possibly be the best mineral veins in the All Beginnings Holy Land. They might just be 2 ordinary ones. But no matter what, Lin Xian's harvest was enormous. It far surpassed his expectations. Oh right, you shouldn't appear in the southern region for the next period of time. Of course, you shouldn't be too ostentatious in the eastern wasteland. That's because many people are looking for you. Among them are the peerless experts of our All Beginnings Holy Land's 5th bloodline. There are also people from the Wavering Light Holy Land. Even the All Beginnings Saint Sun and the Wavering Light Saint Sun are looking for you. The All Beginnings Saint Sun and the Wavering Light Saint Sun? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and sneered. They actually dare to look for me? They are truly blind. Don't worry. As long as they dare to come, I will definitely kill them. Don't be careless. Although I know that you are very strong, I still have to warn you. The disparity between saints is also very large. People like the All-Thunder Saint Sun are only the most ordinary saints. They can't contend against almighties. However, there are some peak saints who can even kill almighties. For example, the Wavering Light Saint Sun. The Wavering Light Saint Sun could kill almighties? Lin Xian was shocked. He didn't expect the Wavering Light Saint Sun to possess such formidable combat strength. Chapter 1969. The Alcade Saint could kill a powerhouse? Lin Xian was extremely shocked. He hadn't expected the Alcade Saint to be so powerful. That's right. He can indeed kill powerhouses. Furthermore, no one knows the limit of the Alcade Saint's strength because no one has ever seen him fight with his full strength. When he killed a powerhouse, he appeared to be very relaxed. Lin Xian was astonished. The Alcade Saint was truly a ferocious person. I want to know how many people in the Eastern Wasteland have such strength? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. He discovered that the Eastern Wasteland had given him too much of a shock. He had originally thought that with his current strength, he would be able to surpass all of the Eastern Wasteland's younger generation. But now, it seemed that wasn't necessarily the case. There wouldn't be too many, but there wouldn't be too few either. For example, the Alcade Sacred Ground, the Dowie Sacred Ground, the Yi family, the Gu family, and other ancient families might have one or two heaven-defying geniuses who can kill powerhouses. So, you should be careful. Furthermore, the cultivation of these saints and saintesses is extremely powerful. Who knows, they might break through at any time. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. Indeed, he had a fortuitous encounter. The other saints and saintesses also had all sorts of natural treasures. Perhaps these people would also break through. At that time, they would become a great enemy. Lin Xian also understood this. Thus, he said, "Don't worry. I'll keep a low profile for now." Following this, Lin Xian went to the two veins that Lu Mingyue had left for him. He used his heavenly secret divine eye to dig out some stones and sealed the rest with a great array. He would come back later. After doing all this, Lin Xian used the super teleportation array and arrived at the Eastern Wasteland's Western Wasteland to cultivate. However, on this day, the place he was cultivating it changed. There were several powerful fluctuations in the vicinity, and there were even the sounds of intense fighting. Someone was fighting? Sensing this change, Lin Xian frowned. He was currently in a vast mountain with no one around. Yet, there were actually people fighting here. Could it be that they had found him? At first, he thought that it was the All Beginnings Holy Land, or the Wavering Light Holy Land that had come. However, when he probed with his soul power, he discovered that this wasn't the case. That was because he realized that the people who were fighting were very powerful. However, the techniques and abilities they used were completely different from those of the All Beginnings Holy Land and the Wavering Light Holy Land. It was even different from any cultivation technique he had seen in the Eastern Wilderness. Those who were fighting had streams of dragon chi coiling around their bodies, as if they were true dragons, providing immense power. Every move they made was filled with a destructive aura. The Crimson Dragon was also alarmed. He came out to take a look and then exclaimed, "It's the people of the Central Plains, Central State." Hearing this, Lin Xian squinted his eyes. The true spirit world was divided into 5 continents: East Wasteland, Central Continent, South Mountain, West Emo, and North Plains. The Central Continent referred to the central continent of the true spirit world. According to legend, that place was incomparably vast, filled with outstanding heroes, and had incomparably magnificent mountains and rivers. It was the true center of the continent. Unexpectedly, these people were from the Central Plains. But why were they in the Eastern Wasteland? Furthermore, they were fighting intensely. Could it be that something had happened? Thus, in the next moment, Lin Xian's figure flickered, and he flew forward. The spiritual chi in front of him fluctuated violently, and resplendent light illuminated the entire sky. Among them was a middle-aged man with the aura of 7 true dragons coiling around his body, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. In his hand, there was a silver saber. The sharp saber light burned fiercely, slicing apart the surrounding space. Opposite the middle-aged man were 5 black-clothed people. Black chi coiled around each of them, transforming into black dragons. Not only that, but the 5 of them also had black wings on their backs. They were like black dragon wings, and when they spread out, they covered the sky. The 5 black-clothed people and the middle-aged man were fighting intensely. Terrifying killing intent soared into the sky, as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas, causing the surrounding mountains to explode. Buzz! Suddenly, one of the black-clothed people flapped the black dragon wings on his back and quickly arrived in the sky. The sword in his hand suddenly enlarged, and like a black thunderbolt, it slashed towards the middle-aged man. Boom! The middle-aged man waved his palm, and the dragon chi on his body accompanied his palm to meet the shocking sword in the sky. Boom! The collision of the 2 huge forces was earth-shattering. However, at this moment, 2 black-clothed people appeared behind the middle-aged man like ghosts. The thin swords in their hands suddenly stabbed out. Bang, bang, bang. The middle-aged man was stabbed and flew backward. However, the other 2 dragon chi in his body also blasted the 2 black-clothed people away. Lin Xian, who was hidden in the void, frowned as he watched the intense scene unfold. The people in front of him were powerful, but the middle-aged man's situation was not good. He was already injured previously, and now that he had been stabbed twice, his injuries were even more serious. However, he had no intention of joining in. First of all, he did not know these people at all, and he did not know why they were fighting. He had no interest in getting involved in such a storm. The situation in front of him changed again. The 5 black-clothed people formed a mysterious formation to surround and kill the middle-aged man. This caused the middle-aged man's injuries to become even more serious. The middle-aged man also used some kind of powerful secret technique to kill the black-clothed people without any regard for his own life. Finally, 2 black-clothed people were killed. The injuries on his body were also extremely serious. He looked like he was about to die. However, in the end, the middle-aged man attacked crazily and killed another 2 black-clothed people. Only 1 black-clothed person was left. The middle-aged man's aura was also on the verge of death, and he could die at any time. Save my life, and I'll give you a great opportunity. At this moment, the middle-aged man quickly shouted in Lin Xian's direction. Have I been discovered? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. The remaining black-clothed person sneered. This is the Eternal Dynasty's business. Those who have nothing to do with it get lost. Eternal Dynasty? Hearing this, Lin Xian's frown deepened. He knew that the situation in the Central Continent was different from the Eastern Wilderness. The Eastern Wilderness was dominated by the clan of the Ancients and the Sacred Grounds, while the Central Continent was dominated by the Imperial Dynasty. Of course, there were also the Sacred Grounds, but there were fewer of them than the Eastern Wilderness. In the Central Continent, the Imperial Dynasty was the overlord. Their status and strength were equivalent to the clan of the Ancients, and their bloodline was passed down. Some of the imperial dynasties were very terrifying and had produced great emperors. The Eternal Dynasty that the black-clothed person mentioned was one of them. However, he did not expect that their people would be here. The black-clothed person shouted coldly. At the same time, the thin sword in his hand stabbed out again, turning into countless sword intents that enveloped the middle-aged man. This caused the middle-aged man's injuries to worsen. The middle-aged man roared crazily and fought back with all his might. I have news about the nest of 10,000 dragons. Help me. I want to tell you the news. Hearing this, the black-clothed person frowned, and the murderous aura on his body became even colder. Lin Xian was puzzled. Nest of 10,000 dragons? What's that? Chapter 1970. However, the Crimson Dragon's body trembled, and his eyes lit up. Kid, agree to him. You must get news of the nest of 10,000 dragons. The Crimson Dragon didn't explain much, but Lin Xian knew that with the status of the Dark Red Dragon, it was definitely unusual for him to be so excited. Therefore, in the next moment, he nodded and walked out of the void. It was actually a young man. However, when Lin Xin walked out, the middle-aged man was disappointed when he saw Lin Xin's appearance, because he didn't expect that it was only a young man hiding here. The black-robed man heaved a sigh of relief and laughed arrogantly. "Song, it seems that today is really the day you die. Do you think a little child can save your life?" Then, he stared at Lin Xian. "Kid, you really don't know what death is. With your status, you dare to walk out? Do you really think that treasures are so easy to get? If you hadn't come out before, I could have let you go. But now, since you've heard the news of the nest of 10,000 dragons, I won't let you go. Kneel obediently and wait for death. When I deal with this guy, I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, if you dare to escape, I'll first cut off your limbs, then pull out your tendons, skin you alive, and refine your soul. I'll let you taste the pain of the 18 levels of hell." The black-robed man's voice carried a trace of coldness and ferocity. The middle-aged man also had a look of disappointment on his face. From his perception, Lin Xian was only a 6-star king. How could such a person contend against the black-robed man? Therefore, he gritted his teeth and once again raised the remaining strength in his body and attacked with all his might. A huge ball of light blasted forward. At the same time, he turned into an afterimage and flew into the distance. Bang! The black-robed man split the ball of light with his sword and laughed sinisterly. With a wave of his hand, a black ghost claw covered the sky and earth, enveloping the surroundings. It trapped the middle-aged man who was escaping and mercilessly slapped him down. A black aura slapped the middle-aged man's body, causing him to fall to the ground. Want to escape? Not so easy. However, at this moment, Lin Xian moved. Mysterious sword runes appeared beneath his feet and instantly spread out in all directions. At the same time, the dragon sword domain covered the sky and the earth, enveloping the black-robed man. "You're courting death." The black man was furious. His move had already rendered the middle-aged man immobile. Just one more strike, and he would be able to finish him off. However, he did not expect that the ant in his eyes would actually make a move at this moment. This was unbearable for him. He was a mighty figure, yet his opponent was merely a mere 6-star king realm cultivator. Yet, he actually dared to attack him? He was really courting death. In the next moment, he threw out a punch. The violent fist surged and blasted toward the dragon sword domain in the sky. Boom! The sound of a collision was earth-shattering. However, the dragon sword spirit domain shone brightly and emitted a sharp aura, but it did not break. This scene greatly surprised the black-clothed man. What? How is this possible? He was simply too surprised. One had to know that he was an almighty, and he was extremely powerful. With a light wave of his hand, he could easily kill a 6-star king. But now, his energy had lost its effect. Not only was his opponent not killed, but his king realm also did not break. This was too unbelievable. "Kid, who exactly are you?" the black-clothed man roared. Lin Xian revealed a cold smile. "The person who will kill you." "Kill me? What a joke. Go to hell first," the black-clothed man roared. The black dragon wings on his back flapped rapidly, turning into 2 black, heavenly blades that slashed toward Lin Xian mercilessly. The speed of this attack was simply too fast. Moreover, the black wings were wrapped in an endless black aura. At this moment, it was fully unleashed and quickly cut open the void. "Get lost," Lin Xian roared. Within the demon-slaying sword formation, blood-red sword chi quickly met the attack. In the sky, endless blood-red light appeared, dyeing the void red. Even the spiritual power in the sky gathered and merged into the blood-red sword chi, turning it into his own. Boom! Boom! The two collided, and thousands of large black cracks appeared in the void. The black-clothed man's scalp went numb. His expression became extremely ugly. This was because he felt an extremely sharp aura wrap around him as if it could unfold his body. Boom! In the next moment, he was sent flying. Damn it! How is this possible? The black-clothed man's expression was extremely ugly. As an almighty, he was very powerful. Moreover, he was an expert from Zhengzhou. In his opinion, the people from Eastern Wilderness were not worth mentioning. Moreover, his opponent was only a 6-star king. Such a person was no different from an ant in his eyes. But now, an ant was sent flying by him. On the other side, Lin Xian stood in the void. His black hair fluttered, and his gaze was as sharp as a sword light. A powerful aura spread out, and the entire void rumbled rapidly. His voice was cold. Let me see how the Almighty of Zhengzhou is different from Eastern Wilderness. As soon as he said that, lightning fell from the sky. The black-clothed man's expression was gloomy because his opponent was too confident. From the looks of it, he was not afraid of the Almighty at all. Instead, he was treating them as equals. But how was this possible? Was he a saint from some Eastern Wilderness sacred ground, or a peerless genius from one of the remote antiquity families? Which family are you from?
The black-clothed man asked coldly.
A dead man doesn't need to know so much. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Then, he took a step forward and performed the heavenly dragon's 8 steps. His entire body turned into a sword light and instantly rushed over. The demon-slaying sword was quickly performed, and streaks of blood-red sword chi rushed forward. Heaven and earth trembled because this attack was too terrifying. It was as if nothing in the world could stop it. The black-clothed man's expression changed as he quickly retreated. At the same time, he threw out a shield to block it. He was too shocked, because he did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. Moreover, he had fought with the middle-aged man for many days, and his body was already injured. At this moment, he could not unleash his full power. Therefore, in the face of such a fierce attack, he could only retreat quickly. However, as an almighty, he was still infuriated. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared angrily. A shocking murderous aura emerged from his body and rushed out quickly. Not only that, the black dragon wings on his back flapped. Then, a black pterosaur rushed out from beside him and rapidly enlarged. It was as if a demonic beast had descended into the human world. Boom! The black pterosaur shadow stretched out a claw and grabbed at Lin Xian from all directions. Strong winds howled between heaven and earth, and terrifying energy shook the entire void. Attack together. Don't waste time. On the other side, Lin Xian did not attack alone. The Crimson Dragon also attacked, because there was no need to pay attention to the rules when dealing with such a black-clothed man. Chapter 1971. Between heaven and earth, the wind howled, and the terrifying energy shook the entire void. Waves of air turned into sharp sword light, sweeping across the surroundings. Attack together. Don't waste time. On the other side, Lin Xian did not attack alone, and the Crimson Dragon also attacked. Because there was no need to pay attention to the rules when dealing with this kind of black-clothed man. The Crimson Dragon roared, and its body suddenly enlarged, turning into 100 feet long true dragon. With a wave of its dragon tail, a terrifying light blasted directly at the black claw. Pung pung pung. Then, the black claw directly exploded, and the black pterosaur phantom also trembled violently. Damn it! What is this? It also has the aura of the dragon clan? The black-clothed man looked at the transformed Crimson Dragon and was shocked. Looking at the other party's appearance, it seemed to be related to the dragon clan. Of course, he did not expect the Crimson Dragon to be a real dragon clan, because even in Zhengzhou, there were no real dragons, only some flood dragons. Pong! At this moment, the snow-white monkey appeared, and its furry little claws directly slapped the black-clothed man's head. Suddenly, the world spun, and the black-clothed man was temporarily dizzy. In a battle between experts, this kind of dizziness was very fatal. Therefore, Lin Xian took advantage of this opportunity and combined with the dragon sword realm. His whole body turned into a shocking sword light and slashed forward. This sword light was like the divine light of the immortal Tao, and it had an incomparably sharp aura and directly slashed down. Puff! With a scream, half of the black-clothed man's body was directly split open. This sword had split him into 2 halves. Buzz! Then, the black gas on his body rolled, and a small pterosaur flapped its wings, carrying the black-clothed man's soul, and was about to soar into the sky. But in the next moment, The crimson dragon opened its mouth and spat out a ball of fiery red dragon flame, directly burning the black pterosaur phantom and the black-clothed man's soul. The last black-clothed man was quickly killed by the joint forces of Lin Xian, the crimson dragon, and the snow-white monkey. Phew! Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the middle-aged man lying on the ground in the distance. The next moment, he walked over. "Are you all right?" Lin Xian helped the middle-aged man up and fed him a pill. The middle-aged man was panting heavily. His breathing was very unstable. It was only after he took the pill that he gradually calmed down. Then, he said weakly, "Let me tell you, the nest of 10,000 dragons is right there. Right there." At this point, his voice became extremely weak. Lin Xian also frowned and lowered his head to listen carefully. Wang. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man's eyes suddenly erupted with a fierce light. His entire body went from weak to incomparably strong in an instant. The berserk soul power transformed into an awl, ruthlessly piercing towards Lin Xian. Pong! Lin Xian didn't expect this at all, so he was hit. Instantly, his entire body stiffened, and his gaze became lifeless. Damn it, it's a possession. The Crimson Dragon's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. He didn't expect this middle-aged man to be so despicable. He actually wanted to steal Lin Xian's body at this time. In the next moment, he roared angrily, raised his dragon claw, and slapped the middle-aged man's body. Immediately, the middle-aged man was smashed into pieces. However, it was useless. The middle-aged man's soul had completely entered Lin Xian's mind. In Lin Xian's mind, the middle-aged man's soul transformed into a flood dragon, wreaking havoc in a frenzy. He wanted to destroy Lin Xian's soul and take over his body. To be honest, I don't want to do this either, but my body is too injured and I still can't fully recover. Since you were able to kill an almighty, you must have a special bloodline. If I can obtain your body, I might be able to advance to the next level in the future. The middle-aged man's voice was cold and emotionless. So, go to hell. The middle-aged man went crazy. His soul was like a flood dragon emerging from the sea, quickly moving towards the depths of Lin Xian's mind. As long as he occupied the depths of Lin Xian's mind and destroyed his soul power, the body would be his. Soon, his soul reached the depths of Lin Xian's mind, and in the next moment, he was about to take over the entire body. However, at this moment, a cold snort came from the surroundings. "You want to take over my body? You're really courting death." Lin Xian's voice was heard, and then a white fog appeared around him. Lin Xian's soul power also became stronger in an instant. It transformed into a dragon-shaped sword shadow that instantly rushed out and enveloped the middle-aged man's soul. What? How is this possible? How can your soul power be so strong? The middle-aged man's soul was split in half, but he didn't die immediately. Instead, he screamed in horror. This was because he found it hard to believe that the other party's soul power was stronger than his. This was too unbelievable. One had to know that he was an almighty, and he could definitely crush any soul that wasn't an almighty. However, the other party's soul power was too strong, and it even surpassed his. This made him unable to believe it. Could it be that the other party is an old monster, just hiding his cultivation level? The middle-aged almighty was bewildered. However, in the next moment, he was so shocked that the two halves of his soul almost disappeared. This was because he saw a terrifying scene. In the depths of his mind, there was a dragon-shaped sword shadow that emitted an aura that terrified him. What is this? Why is it so scary? The middle-aged man was terrified because just the aura alone was enough to destroy him. Dragon soul, this is the aura of a dragon soul. Are you from the dragon race? No, that's impossible. The middle-aged almighty shouted crazily. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and screamed. Could this be the legendary Great Dragon Sword Soul? Heavens, you actually have the Great Dragon Sword Soul. He screamed crazily because other than the Great Dragon Sword Soul, he couldn't think of anything else that could have such a terrifying aura. You know quite a lot, but it's too late. A cold voice sounded. In the next moment, Lin Xian's soul merged with the great dragon sword soul and turned into a sharp sword light that rushed forward. In an instant, the middle-aged man's soul was destroyed. In the outside world, the Crimson Dragon waited anxiously. Although he knew that Lin Xian's soul was strong, he was still very nervous. This was because the battle of souls was very terrifying. If the soul was injured, it would be more difficult to recover than physical injuries. It was even possible that he would become an idiot. Therefore, he was very worried. However, in the next moment, he noticed that Lin Xian's body was trembling slightly. He immediately paid attention to it nervously. Lin Xian's dull eyes gradually regained their luster and then became abnormally sharp. "Who are you? Is it Lin Xian or someone else?" The Crimson Dragon asked nervously. He was now unsure who the owner of this body was. Chapter 1972. Who are you? The Crimson Dragon asked nervously. He wasn't sure who the owner of this body was. "It's me, Ruzalong." "Don't worry," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. "That guy was killed by my dragon sword soul." Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That old guy deserves to die. He actually wanted to possess your body. Fortunately, he didn't succeed." "That's right. I almost failed miserably." Lin Xian was also afraid. If he didn't have the dragon sword soul, he would have been in danger this time. The consequences of being possessed by an almighty were terrifying. "How is it? Did you get any news? Could it be that the news about the nest of 10,000 dragons is also fake?" The Crimson Dragon asked again. He was very concerned about the nest of 10,000 dragons. "That's not fake," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. This middle-aged man had indeed obtained some information about the nest of 10,000 dragons. Then, Lin Xian found a palm-sized broken map from the middle-aged man's storage ring. The nest of 10,000 dragons is in the central continent. From the looks of it, those dynasties should be looking for the nest of 10,000 dragons and preparing to set off. The other dynasties have also found news about the nest of 10,000 dragons. The Crimson Dragon was extremely surprised. Then he said, "Kid, let's go to the central continent too." "Sure, but tell me first, what exactly is this nest of 10,000 dragons?" Lin Xian was still a little puzzled. The nest of 10,000 dragons can be said to be the nest of the Dragon Clan. Dragon Clan? Isn't that your hometown? "I don't know." The Crimson Dragon shook his head. "When I was born, it was in the East Sea. At that time, I was the only one. There were no other dragons. So, I'm not a dragon from the nest of 10,000 dragons. There's actually such a thing." Lin Xian was surprised. This was the first time he learned that the Crimson Dragon came from the East Sea. Apart from the 5 continents, the rest of the true spirit world was filled with oceans. The ocean near the eastern wasteland was called the Eastern Sea. The East Sea's surface area was even more vast. It was a few times bigger than the East Barren continent. It could be said to be boundless. No one knew where the end of the East Sea was. This nest of 10,000 dragons was the place where the primordial dragon clan lived. There were heaven-shaking treasures inside, and there might even be treasures left behind by the dragon clan. "I am from the dragon race, and you have the great dragon sword soul. We are both related to the dragon race. If we can obtain the treasures in the nest of 10,000 dragons, it will definitely allow our strength to undergo earth-shattering changes. Moreover, there are many dragon veins in the central region. If we can find some dragon crystals or gather some dragon aura, it will greatly increase our fighting strength." "I see." Hearing this, Lin Xian's eyes flickered, emitting a bright light. "Since that's the case, let's go to the central state." Zhongzhou. It was the center of the true spirit continent, with its vast territory and abundant resources. Not only were there countless spirit veins here, but there were also countless dragon veins. These dragon veins were buried deep under the earth, with their roots intertwined. Many of the famous dragon veins were occupied by the various dynasties. However, there were also some unknown dragon veins hidden in the mountains and swamps. If anyone could obtain them and take them for themselves, they would be able to obtain heaven-defying fortune. Who knew, they might be able to establish a new dynasty. There were now 9 great dynasties in the central state, and each of them was an incomparably heaven-defying overlord. Under these 9 great dynasties, there were 3,000 dynasties. These dynasties were also incomparably terrifying, and they were even comparable to peerless great sections. However, these dynasties did not exist alone. Instead, they were attached to the 9 great dynasties. These 9 great dynasties were not the final existences. Rumor had it that a long time ago, above the dynasties, there was the legendary sacred dynasty. That was the overlord of the world. However, in the endless years, only one sacred dynasty had appeared. It unified the entire central state. It could be said that it had started the most prosperous era of the central state. However, it was still destroyed in the end, turning into 9 great dynasties and 3,000 dynasties. As for how it was destroyed, no one knew. However, there were rumors that the sacred dynasty was too heaven-defying. A god descended from the heavens and directly destroyed it. However, whether there were gods or immortals in this world was still unknown. Therefore, the true situation of the destruction of the primordial sacred dynasty had disappeared in history. However, this did not stop the central state from yearning for the sacred dynasty. Especially the 9 great dynasties, each of them wanted to annex the other dynasties and evolve into the only sacred dynasty. Lin Xian used many super teleportation formations and finally arrived at the central state. It took him more than 2 months just to use this kind of super teleportation array. If he flew at his speed, he would not be able to reach the central state in less than a few decades. Lin Xian had now arrived at one of the 9 great dynasties, the Tai dynasty. At this moment, he was flying towards the glazed city of the Tai dynasty. This was because when he entered the Tai dynasty, Lin Xian received a piece of news. The entire Tai dynasty was currently selecting experts to join the king's mansion. Lin Xian felt that this had something to do with the nest of 10,000 dragons. Therefore, he discussed with the Crimson Dragon and decided to join a king's mansion, first to investigate the situation. Up ahead was Glaze City. This city was very famous in the Tai dynasty because there was a Valurium mansion inside. Valurium King was a king of the Tai dynasty. Not only was he powerful, but he was also a peerless expert. His identity card was that of a member of the royal family, and he possessed the purest royal bloodline. Therefore, this Glaze City was also famous throughout the world. At this moment, in the Tai dynasty, 27 king's mansions were recruiting the heroes of the world. Valurium Mansion was one of them. Lin Xian's target this time was also Valurium Mansion. After flying for a while, Lin Xian finally saw the Valurium capital. The tall city walls were like divine pillars that reached the heavens. They were at least 300 meters tall. The enormous city gates were incomparably grand and heavy. Even a great expert wouldn't be able to shatter them. Lin Xian looked into the distance from the clouds. He saw that there were many enormous palaces inside the city. They were like stars that filled the sky. Among them, many of the palaces flickered with resplendent light. They were all supported by formations that formed enormous spirit formations. Flying above Valurium capital was forbidden. Everyone had to enter through the main gate. If they didn't, they wouldn't be held responsible for triggering the formation and being killed. At this moment, a dignified voice sounded from the city ahead. Then, the surrounding cultivators landed one after another. They didn't dare to provoke Valurium Mansion, so they could only enter through the main gate. Lin Xian also landed on the ground with a sway of his body. He walked forward. Almost 100 guards stood in front of the city gates. Every one of them wore battle armor and exuded a powerful aura. They were like war gods. After paying the entrance fee, Lin Xian walked in. It was very lively inside. There was a sea of people. Because it was close to Valurium City, all the cultivators had come here to prepare to enter Valurium Mansion. Chapter 1973. The Tai dynasty was one of the 9 great dynasties of the central continent. It was one of the top factions. Normally, it was harder than ascending to the heavens to join the Tai dynasty. But this time, the Tai dynasty had taken the initiative to recruit the world's geniuses. This was undoubtedly a chance for experts to join the Tai dynasty. Therefore, these people hurried over. As long as they joined the Tai dynasty, they would be able to enjoy a lifetime of wealth and endless treasures. After entering the city, these people didn't wander around randomly. Instead, they all headed for the Valurium Palace. The Valurium Palace was even more majestic. It towered in front of them like a heavenly palace. Although it was called a palace, it was far too large. It was even larger than some of the larger cities. There were also guards standing at the entrance of the prince's mansion. There was even a table, paper, and pen next to it. Cultivators had to register their information. Because not everyone was qualified to enter the prince's mansion, only young geniuses and powerful kings could enter. Lin Xian found a place and walked up. At this time, one of the armored guards spoke in a low voice. "Write down your age, identity, and cultivation here." Lin Xian filled in the information without a word. When the guard took it, he immediately frowned. 24 years old, no sect? He was a 6-star king. He was a little suspicious, because no sect meant that the boy was a wandering cultivator. For a wandering cultivator to become a 6-star king at the age of 24 wasn't something that just anyone could do. Even the genius disciples of some aristocratic families weren't as good as them. As for those people, they all had enormous clans providing them with heavenly treasures. How could a wandering cultivator become a 6-star king at the age of 24 without abundant resources and with just his talent? It wasn't just the guard. The surrounding people were all suspicious. Who was that kid? How did he become a 6-star king? It doesn't look like it. He's probably just blindly writing his information. Is he trying to bluff his way through? Bluff his way through? Then he's dead meat. A few days ago, someone tried to bluff his way through by filling in his information. In the end, he was sent flying by a single punch from these guards. He was seriously injured and almost crippled. I think this kid's fate will be very miserable. A series of noises sounded in the surroundings, while the expression of the guard at the front darkened. His eyes flickered as he stared at Lin Xian and coldly said, "Brat, take my punch." This guard was also a 6-star king. At this moment, he wanted to test if Lin Xian had the strength of a 6-star king. Therefore, he threw out a punch. This punch contained the power of a 6-star king, and it was extremely terrifying. That terrifying blast of air made the cheeks of the surrounding people hurt. Pung! Faced with the terrifying punch, Lin Xian gently extended his hand and grabbed at the fist in front of him. The next moment, he caught the fist. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. They did not expect that Lin Xian would be able to withstand the punch, and he was able to take it so easily. That guard was also stunned. Next, he subconsciously wanted to withdraw his fist. However, he realized that he was unable to do so, because the other party's palm was like an iron clamp, firmly holding his fist. Not only that, but he also felt that he could not use the power in his entire arm. He had never seen such a situation before. However, at this moment, Lin Xian asked in a deep voice, "How is it? Do I have the cultivation of a 6-star king?" Yes. The guard spoke with difficulty. There was no longer contempt in his eyes. Instead, it was replaced by a deep sense of fear. Seeing that the other party had admitted it, Lin Xian let go of his hand and strode into the mansion. Wherever he passed, the crowd made way. No one dared to stop him. This was because the surrounding people had already seen Lin Xian's strength. With such strength, he could be considered a genius among the younger generation. Who is this person? This kid is so strong. I don't know. I've never heard of him. Looking at his strength, he should be very famous among the younger generation. Look, what's his name? Thus, everyone looked at the information that Lin Xian had filled in. His name is Lin Xian. What an unfamiliar name. Indeed, I've never heard of it. Discussions broke out one after another. Obviously, they were even more curious about Lin Xian's identity. After entering the mansion, Lin Xian shuttled through the long corridor. The surrounding palaces and pavilions were very majestic. Not only that, but there were also other warriors running quickly. Judging from the looks of these people, their expressions were grim and even a little anxious. Lin Xian was curious, so he stopped one of them and asked, "Brother, what's going on? Where are you going?" "You must be new. Today is the day of the selection. Everyone is heading to the training field." "The day of the selection? Lin Xian wanted to ask more, but the warrior had already run away. He had no choice but to follow the crowd. Finally, he saw a crowd gathering in front. It was a sea of people, and the noise was so loud that the clouds in the sky were shaken away. When he arrived nearby, he realized that it was a huge square. It was very vast. To be honest, it was the first time Lin Xian saw such a huge training field. It was like a city that could accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. On top of it, there were huge ancient blue stones with runes flickering on them, as expected of the Tai dynasty. Just the training field of the mansion was so magnificent. Lin Xian was surprised. Not only was the square huge, but there were also fierce battles in the middle of the training field. Countless figures were besieging a burly man. The burly man was very huge, like a small mountain. He stood in front of them, exuding an unparalleled aura. Clearly, this was an almighty and an extremely powerful one at that. There were at least 1,000 people attacking. Each of them had a powerful aura. Streams of light flickered as they attacked the burly man one after another. Bang, bang, bang. These people were all below the level of a mighty figure. Although they fought together, they could not shake the burly mighty figure. Terrifying sounds like thunder resounded in all directions. The runes on the ground flickered and the void shook. As for the mighty figure, he even used his king's domain to envelop everyone. The surrounding people were discussing animatedly. Their eyes were shining and their expressions were incomparably excited. I wonder who will be able to successfully break through this time? Who knows? That burly man is the famous moving mountain general in the mansion. He is known to have infinite strength. I think the mighty figures of the same level can't beat him. None of these people are mighty figures. It's impossible to beat the moving mountain general. We can only see who can be chosen by the moving mountain general and enter the mansion. That was indeed the case. Everyone nodded. In addition to the moving mountain general, there is also the fire general. These two are in charge of the selection. Therefore, it's up to their will to decide who can enter. Chapter 1974. Aside from the Mountain Razor General, there's also the Flaming General. These two are in charge of the selection, so it's up to their will to decide who gets in. That's right. If you want to enter the Valurium Palace, you must first obtain their approval. The crowd was abuzz with discussion. At this time, someone sighed. It looks like there's no chance today. It doesn't matter if there's no chance today. These selections are held once every half a month. We'll have plenty of chances. Yeah, I won't leave until the last moment. Everyone's eyes were resolute. They all wanted to use this opportunity to enter the Valurium Palace. Lin Xian listened to them from the side and got a general idea of what was going on. The big man in front was called the Mountain Razor General. He was one of the selectors, and the people fighting him were all competitors. Whoever was chosen by the Mountain Razor General had a chance of breaking through and entering the Valurium Palace. When he thought of this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked to the front. He had to admit that the Mountain Razor General was terrifying. He was more powerful than the average expert. Every move he made had the power to devour the heavens and split the earth. That person passed. Someone exclaimed. He's been chosen by the Mountain Razor General. Lin Xian also saw that the Mountain Razor General's domain had wrapped around a person and sent him out of the domain to a safe place. In other words, a cultivator had been chosen by the Mountain Razor General. That kid must be from House Zhou. He was lucky enough to be chosen by the Mountain Razor General so quickly. Lin Xian looked to the distance and saw a young man in yellow standing there. He was ecstatic and unusually excited. Lin Xian noticed that he was a 6-star king. He nodded slightly when he saw this. It seemed that a 6-star king could enter the Valurium Palace. It wouldn't be difficult for him to enter. However, he frowned slightly because he noticed that there were many 6-star kings still fighting. It was just that none of them had been chosen. Therefore, he didn't know what the Mountain Razor General's criteria was. Was it talent, combat experience, or cultivation? Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the sound of fierce collisions suddenly rang out in front of him. The Mountain Razor General had raised countless gales and lightning with a wave of his hand. Hundreds of people had been sent flying. However, even more martial artists charged over. King's domains lit up one after another as they clashed with the mountain-moving great general's domain, creating thunderous booms. This sound was extremely terrifying, and the entire void could not withstand it. Not only that, the surrounding cultivators were also affected. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and carefully observed the battle process of the mountain-moving general. He found that the other party's strength was very strong, far beyond what he had seen before. Moreover, the other party did not use brute force. Instead, he used his strength with great skill. It could be said that there was not a single bit of waste. That's the little girl from the Liu family, right? She actually passed as well. At this moment, the crowd cried out in surprise again. This was because the king's domain had brought a young girl to a safe place. That young girl had also passed the test. Seeing this scene, everyone was extremely excited, because this meant that others also had a chance to pass. That's right, this young woman's cultivation was only at the 5-star king realm, yet she'd passed, and this undoubtedly gave everyone confidence. However, Lin Xian knew that although this young girl's cultivation was only at the 5-star king realm, her battle techniques and use of domains were extremely exquisite. It was also because of this that she successfully broke through and entered the Wang Mansion. From the looks of it, this Wang Mansion either accepted geniuses with talent or experts with true strength. In this case, I should have no problems. Lin Xian nodded slightly. He couldn't participate today. He only needed to wait for half a month before participating. At that time, he would be able to enter the Wang Mansion. Then, he might be able to obtain more information about the nest of 10,000 dragons from the Wang Mansion. This mountain-moving great general was indeed impressive. He wondered what kind of person the fire great general was. Lin Xian retracted his gaze from the battlefield in front of him and looked around. Soon, he saw a figure in the distance. It was a youth who looked to be about 15 or 16 years old. He was wearing a fiery red robe and had delicate features and an outstanding temperament. There was a strong aura of fire on his body. He was like a child of flames. Could it be him? Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He could sense a terrifying aura emanating from the 16 or 17-year-old boy. He observed carefully. Although that person only had the appearance of a youth, his aura had reached the almighty level. Moreover, there were many people around him who were carefully serving him. He should be the fire great general. Bang! However, at this moment, the mountain-moving great general in front of him laughed loudly again. Then, he slammed his hands on the ground. The terrifying force was shaking, and the entire prince's mansion was shaking. As for the people around him, they kept retreating. Some of them were even sent flying by the impact. Be careful, dodge quickly. Exclamations could be heard because many people were descending towards the crowd. These figures all had fierce auras, and ordinary people wouldn't dare to take them head-on. Therefore, everyone dispersed. However, among them, a figure flew towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian frowned. However, he did not dodge. Instead, he waved his sleeves as well, forming a ball of gentle energy that caught hold of that figure. I'm actually fine? The figure was very confused. He thought that he would be seriously injured. He didn't expect to be caught by someone else. In the next moment, he stood up and looked behind him. Brother, were you the one who saved me? Thank you very much. He was a young man in his late 20s. His face was round and honest, and he was a 6-star king. However, it seemed that he had just reached that level, and his aura wasn't very strong yet. He looked gratefully at Lin Xian. Ma Chao, thank you for your help, brother. The young man smiled. How should I address you, brother? After the selection is over, the two of us must have a good drink. That's easy. I'm Lin Xian. I've just arrived at Valurium Palace today, so I'm not very familiar with the surroundings. Perhaps I'll have to trouble you, old brother. You just arrived today? Ma Chao paused, then smiled and patted Lin Xian's shoulder. Of course. I'm not very strong, but I know the situation in Valurium Palace quite well. Since I've already been kicked out, there's probably no chance for me to go back. Why don't I give you a brief introduction? The selection is held once every half a month. However, not everyone participates every time. Most people only participate once a month and leave one spot empty. Because there are always some injuries during the selection, they need some time to heal. After all, the mountain raiser general is a great expert. Of course, you've just arrived, so you can participate in half a month. Brother Ma, why is Valurium Palace selecting so many geniuses? Lin Xian asked. Chapter 1975. I don't know the details, but it must have something to do with the Tai dynasty. Because in the entire Tai dynasty, the 27 imperial mansions are all recruiting people. According to my estimation, the Tai dynasty should be making a big move, or they might be going to war with other dynasties. By the way, there's one more thing I need to remind you. If you want to participate next time, you have to come earlier and try to make sure you're in the top 1,000 during the selection. Because only 1,000 people will participate in each selection. If you're not in the top 1,000, you can't participate at all. You can only come back and wait for the next selection. Oh, 1,000 people? Lin Xian was surprised. Just rush over? Yes, just rush over. Of course, don't be too stupid and rush to the front. After all, it's very stressful to face an almighty alone. You just have to blend in with the crowd and be in the top 100. That way, you can guarantee that you won't be in the lead and that you'll be qualified. Ma Chao looked like a veteran at first glance. When he talked about the selection, it was all about small tricks. Brother Lin, which family are you from?
Ma Chao asked.
I don't have a family. I'm from a small mountain village, Lin Xian said. So, you're an itinerant cultivator. To be able to cultivate to the level of a 6-star king, you're really not simple. I think your talent must be especially good. As long as you participate a few more times, I believe you should be able to pass within a year, Ma Chao said. Indeed, he didn't know Lin Xian's true strength. He was just guessing based on the strength of an ordinary 6-star king. This was because only a few people were able to pass the selection. There were a total of hundreds of thousands of people participating in the selection, and more martial artists would arrive one after another. Therefore, the competition would be very stressful. There were very few people who could pass the test on their first try. There was almost no one. By the way, Brother Lin, you just came here. You must not have bought a room. Do I need to buy a place to stay? Lin Xian was puzzled. Ma Chao said, yes, hundreds of thousands of people will come here. There won't be enough rooms. You have to buy one. And if you come late, you can't buy one even if you have the money. How about this? You come to my place. I happen to have 2 rooms. It's a good opportunity for us to communicate. All right, thank you, brother. Lin Xian didn't think that these selections would be so popular that they didn't even have enough space to stay. The two of them continued to chat, and Lin Xian mostly asked about the prince's mansion. After another period of time, the battle ahead ended, and so did the selection for the day. A total of 5 people passed. The surrounding people cried out in surprise. 5 people had passed, which was already a lot. Sometimes, only 2 or 3 people would pass, or even just one person. Those who passed were jubilant and prepared to report to the people in the prince's mansion. As for those who did not pass, they hung their heads dejectedly and dispersed one after another, preparing to return and cultivate diligently. Try to come back next month. Let's go, Brother Lin. Let's leave this place as well, Ma Chao said. Lin Xian nodded, and the two of them walked into the distance. The surrounding people were surging, and some of the pavilions on both sides were opened and even hung signs. Lin Xian took a look and realized that they were all selling secret martial arts manuals, elixirs, and weapons. You can do business here? Lin Xian was surprised. He didn't expect to see such a scene in the prince's mansion. Yes, Ma Chao said. This prince's mansion is not ordinary. There are all kinds of things inside. It can be considered a city. Of course, this kind of thing can only be found in the periphery of the prince's mansion. And in the core of the prince's mansion, ordinary people can't enter at all. Sure enough, many people walked towards the elixir pavilion. And most of them had just finished participating in the competition. They were injured, and because they stayed for too long, they used up their healing elixirs. So they could only buy. Lin Xian, on the other hand, followed Ma Chao to a small courtyard. It was a small pavilion. There were 2 rooms and a small courtyard inside. There were a few pine trees in the courtyard, and it looked very simple. However, Ma Chao was very happy. Don't judge this place by its simplicity. This is already considered a better room. The other places don't even have courtyards. At this point, Ma Chao said proudly, and this is because I came early that I managed to get it. If I came a little later, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have a room. We can each have a room. When we're free, we can spar in the courtyard and exchange ideas. Okay, thank you very much, Lin Xian said with a smile. The two of them talked, but at that moment, there was a commotion outside. Lin Xian frowned. Ma Chao's expression changed. What's wrong? Lin Xian asked. He noticed that Ma Chao's expression was a little strange. It's those guys. I didn't expect them to come at this time. Ma Chao said in a deep voice. Brother Lin, don't get into a fight with those people later. No matter what they say, just pretend you can't hear them and ignore them. Lin Xian wanted to ask why, but the door in front of him opened and a group of people walked in. These people looked arrogant and had a strong aura. Their clothes were all embroidered with a silver wolf head. Gang. Lin Xian frowned. He was familiar with such clothes. But why would there be a gang in the Wang mansion? Just as the other party walked in, Ma Chao quickly whispered, That's right, they are from the Battle Wolf gang. After all, there are hundreds of thousands of people here preparing for the selection. Naturally, there will be alliances. And the Battle Wolf gang is one of the more powerful groups. They have gathered more than 3,000 people. They are very strong. Ordinary kings are no match for them. So, Brother Lin, don't fight with them later, Ma Chao whispered. On the other side, the people from the Battle Wolf gang strode over. Friends from the Battle Wolf gang, what business do you have here? Ma Chao asked carefully. After all, he was alone and was no match for these people. The people from the Battle Wolf gang snorted and looked at Ma Chao with disdain. Then, one of them sneered. What's the matter? It's very simple. Our Battle Wolf gang has recently recruited a few brothers, but we don't have a place to stay. You too. Hurry up and get the hell out of here. Give us his room. What? Give up his room? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. Ma Chao's expression also changed. It was not easy for him to get these two rooms. If they were occupied, they would be gone. Would they have to sleep on the streets? They would be laughed at. Chapter 1976. What? You don't want to? Seeing Ma Chao hesitate, the faces of the Battle Wolf gang members darkened. Waves of murderous aura surged out from their bodies. It covered the sky and the earth like smoke signals. Sigh. Ma Chao sighed when he saw this scene. He had no choice. The Battle Wolf gang had too many people. Even if he could defeat one or two of them, he could not defeat a group of people. If he did not give up his room, these people would probably beat him to a pulp. By then, he would not be able to participate in the selection. Therefore, he could only grit his teeth and prepare to give up his room. Okay, I'll give up my room. Then, Ma Chao turned to Lin Xian and said, Brother Lin, let's go. Before Lin Xian could say anything, the Battle Wolf gang members spoke again. They sneered. You want to leave? Did I say you could leave? What do you want? We've already given up our rooms. Ma Chao was a little angry. After all, those who could come here were all geniuses. Being so humble was his limit. What do I want? It's simple. The two of you have dirted this place. Kneel and clean it up. If I find a speck of dust, I'll break both of your legs. The cold voice echoed in the small courtyard. After Ma Chao heard this, his body trembled and his face became ferocious. Cleaning, and doing it while kneeling? This was clearly humiliating them. Although he was not a top genius, he was still a genius. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, Damn it, you've gone too far. Gone too far? The Battle Wolf gang members sneered. Yes, we've bullied you. What, do you want to fight back? If you dare to fight back, we'll cripple you and make you unable to participate in the selection of the prince's mansion forever. As soon as these words were said, 6 or 7 Battle Wolf gang members walked up and stared coldly at Ma Chao and Lin Xian. Whoosh, whoosh. Ma Chao was trembling with anger. Lin Xian also frowned. It seemed that this group of Battle Wolfgang people were really arrogant. They actually dared to bully him. Who was he? His strength had long reached the level of a powerful being. At this moment, how could he place the Battle Wolfgang in his eyes? If it weren't for the fact that he was worried that Ma Chao would stay here in the future, he would have made a move the moment Ma Chao entered. But now, it seemed that even if Ma Chao gave in, these people from the Battle Wolfgang would not let them go. Since that was the case, Lin Xian had nothing to worry about. On the other side, Ma Chao was also furious because such an unreasonable request would make even a clay figurine go berserk. He coldly snorted, "Although your Battle Wolfgang is strong, I, Ma Chao, am not to be trifled with either. If we lose face, no one will benefit." A falling out? You want to fall out with our Battle Wolfgang? You think too highly of yourself. Who do you think you are? You're just a 6-star king. The Battle Wolfgang has 3,000 brothers. Do you think you can contend against him? The warriors of the Battle Wolfgang laughed in disdain. That's right. How dare you be so arrogant in front of our third brother? You really don't know what's good for you. Kneel down obediently and kowtow to our third brother to apologize. I can spare your life. Otherwise, you're dead meat. A few of them laughed arrogantly. The middle-aged man at the front had a sneer on his face as he looked down at Ma Chao condescendingly. Damn, it seems that you really don't know what's good for you. The person called third brother shouted coldly, "Break his legs and press him to the ground." Immediately, 2 warriors from the side walked up and looked at Ma Chao with sinister smiles. They were about to make a move. Ma Chao also roared angrily and circulated the spiritual power in his body. He said, "Brother Lin, charge out with me. Don't be surrounded by these guys." Just as he finished speaking, he was stunned, because he realized that Lin Xian had actually taken a step forward and blocked in front of him. Then, Lin Xian waved his hands and gently slapped out twice. Immediately, the 2 warriors of the Battle Wolfgang who rushed over were sent flying. Their chests were caved in and their hands were broken. They smashed into the wall and turned into ruins. What? How dare you attack? The people of the Battle Wolfgang were stunned, as if they couldn't believe that the other party dared to attack. Ma Chao was also stunned. He originally wanted to break out of the encirclement with Lin Xian and leave this place. But he didn't expect that before he could finish speaking, the other party attacked. Forget it. Let them attack. Ma Chao sighed. Anyway, they would attack when they broke out of the encirclement. Just as he was about to shout for Lin Xian to leave, the people of the Battle Wolf gang on the opposite side reacted and roared angrily. You dare to attack the Battle Wolf gang? It seems that you really don't know what's good for you. Cripple your own arms and obediently kneel on the ground and admit your mistakes. The person called third brother had a sinister look on his face. Kid, you dare to touch my people in the Battle Wolf gang. You're dead meat, bang. Before he could finish speaking, third brother was grabbed by the neck and lifted up. Ma Chao's eyes widened as he watched this scene as if he had seen a ghost. That was because Lin Xian stretched out a hand and grabbed the third brother's neck. As for third brother, he was like a rabbit. He kept kicking his legs, but he couldn't use any strength in his body. Third brother's face was red as he struggled. The spiritual power in his body was circulating wildly, but it was restrained by a mysterious force. In other words, he was now like an ordinary person and couldn't use any strength at all. Is the Battle Wolf gang very strong? Su Chun asked coldly. His eyes were cold as he stared at third brother. Feeling this gaze, third brother's scalp went numb. Because this gaze was too cold, it was like 2 awls piercing directly into his soul. So strong. Behind, Ma Chao was also stunned. This was because third brother was also a 6-star king, and his strength was even stronger than his. But now, such a strong person was like a rabbit in Lin Xian's hands, unable to resist at all. This meant that Lin Xian's strength was far above third brother's. This was completely out of Ma Chao's expectations. The others were also stunned. The martial artists of the Battle Wolf gang quickly roared, "Kid, let go of my third brother, or you're dead meat." That's right. I advise you to stop and don't do anything stupid. Those people were terrified and didn't dare to go forward. Firstly, Lin Xian's strength was too terrifying. Secondly, their third brother was still in his hands. If they went forward now, it was hard to guarantee that the other party wouldn't kill them. Behind them, Ma Chao was also worried. He whispered, "Brother Lin, don't be agitated. Just control him. Let's leave quickly. Don't be surrounded by the Battle Wolf Gang." Ma Chao had been here for a long time. He knew that the Battle Wolf Gang was definitely terrifying. It could be said that they were very strong. Ordinary people couldn't resist at all. Even if Lin Xian killed third brother now, he probably wouldn't be able to escape the Battle Wolf Gang's pursuit. Chapter 1977. The Battle Wolf Gang was very powerful, and ordinary people could not resist them. Even if Lin Xian killed third brother now, he would not be able to escape the Battle Wolf Gang's pursuit. Crack! Lin Xian squeezed, and third brother's neck tilted and he fainted. Humph! Lin Xian waved his hand, and third brother was slammed into a wall and fell to the ground. He spat out blood. Seeing this, the Battle Wolf Gang members quickly ran over. Ma Chao's scalp went numb. "You killed him?" "No, he just fainted," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. Fortunately, Ma Chao heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the other party was alive, there was still hope. So he quickly said, "Brother Lin, let's go." "Go? Why should we go?" Lin Xian turned around and looked at Ma Chao. "This house is pretty good. I think we should stay here." "What? Stay here?" Ma Chao was stunned. What was this guy thinking? He quickly said, "The Battle Wolf Gang will be back soon. Don't worry, Brother Ma. What will come will come. No matter who comes, I'll take them on." Lin Xian patted him on the shoulder. "This is my rent." But Ma Chao wanted to say something, but suddenly there was a tremor in the distance. The void fluctuated, and a powerful aura gathered here. "It's over. The Battle Wolf Gang is here." Ma Chao's face turned ugly. He quickly said, "Brother Lin, we can still make it if we leave now. If we wait any longer, we won't be able to escape." However, Lin Xian shook his head. He looked into the distance and said indifferently, "Brother Ma, what is the bottom line of the Wang Mansion? For example, if the Battle Wolf Gang comes looking for trouble with us, will the Wang Mansion care? For example, if I kill someone, will the Wang Mansion care? As long as it's not too big of a matter, the Wang Mansion usually won't care. After all, this is only the periphery of the Wang Mansion. However, it's usually impossible to kill someone. Of course, there are exceptions, unless you are a peerless genius or a powerful cultivator. The imperial residents would be eager to recruit such a person, so why would they blame you?" "Understood." Lin Xian nodded. It seemed that geniuses and experts would be sought after no matter where they went. Since that was the case, things would be easier. A cold smile appeared on Lin Xian's lips. This way, he wouldn't have to hold back. "What? You want to attack us?" The rest of the Battle Wolf Gang warriors were stunned. Then, they roared and charged at Lin Xian. "Humph!" Lin Xian coldly snorted and punched out with both fists. A terrifying aura of destruction gushed out. Immediately, those people were entangled. Then, with a boom, those people's bodies exploded into pieces. Blood spurted out, and the pungent smell of blood filled the air. This scene stunned everyone in the courtyard. Not only the people in the courtyard, but the surrounding people were also stunned. Someone actually dared to kill someone in the palace, and it was someone from the Battle Wolf Gang. Was this heaven-defying? All of a sudden, the surrounding martial warriors also gathered around. Behind them, Ma Chao was already stunned. He didn't know what to say at all, and even his mind was a little blank. Previously, he thought that Lin Xian was just joking about killing people. He was threatening the people of the Battle Wolf Gang. But he didn't expect that the other party was actually serious, and he really did it. It's over, it's over. We're really dead this time." Ma Chao's face was incomparably ugly. He knew that the Battle Wolf Gang would definitely not let this go. However, he wouldn't just stand by and watch. Because this matter had something to do with him, he would fight the Battle Wolf Gang together with Lin Xian. At this time, the third brother in front of him woke up after being fed a pill by someone. However, when he woke up, the The first thing he saw was his little brother being blasted into pieces by a punch. This scene directly provoked him. As a member of the Battle Wolf gang, he was usually arrogant and no one dared to provoke him. But now, someone dared to kill a member of his Battle Wolf gang. It was unforgivable. In the next moment, he stood up and roared, leading his men to charge over. Clang, clang. The third brother and the other two warriors drew 3 long sabers, and the aura on their bodies suddenly erupted, sweeping through the world. The terrifying king's domain also surrounded them. Whoosh! The 3 long sabers slashed down, and the terrifying aura instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the ice aura in his body condensed, enveloping the 3 saber lights. Then, the 3 saber lights were frozen into ice cubes. Then, Lin Xian took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the third brother. His 5 fingers formed a claw and instantly grabbed the other party's head. Bang! Lin Xian pressed his palm down on the other party's head. Immediately, the third brother felt that 5 rays of sword chi were crazily gushing out from his fingers. They pierced into his body. Then, all the spiritual energy in his meridians were destroyed. Not only that, his entire body knelt on the ground. Puff! Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, and his soul was instantly destroyed. What? He was killed. Third brother. The 2 warriors beside him roared crazily. They didn't expect that their third brother couldn't even block a single attack from the other party. Who is he? They were terrified. However, in the next moment, 2 illusory palms grabbed their heads and killed them in an instant. The 3 corpses knelt on the ground, blood flowing down their cheeks. The 3 of them had long lost their vitality. Looking at this scene, Ma Chao was completely stunned. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but he didn't expect Lin Xian to be so powerful that he could kill the Battle Wolf gang members as easily as crushing ants. As for the surrounding people, they were also extremely shocked. They didn't expect this young man to be so crazy that he dared to kill the Battle Wolf gang members. And he even killed an important member of the Battle Wolf gang. Boom, boom, boom. Countless powerful auras filled the sky, and then figures appeared around the courtyard. They all had a silver wolf head painted on their bodies, and they were all members of the Battle Wolf gang. As soon as these people appeared, they sealed off the entire courtyard. Then, they walked in. When they saw the 3 corpses kneeling in the courtyard, they were all stunned, especially when they saw that the person kneeling in front was their third brother. Immediately, their scalps went numb, and their expressions were incomparably solemn. They knew that things had gotten out of hand because their third brother wasn't an ordinary person. He was a core member of the Battle Wolf gang. To be precise, he was the younger brother of the leader of the Battle Wolf gang. There were a total of 6 leaders in the Battle Wolf gang, and the big leader had 2 younger brothers. This third brother was one of them, but they didn't expect that he would be killed here. This was definitely a shocking matter. They couldn't deal with such a matter at all, and could only wait for the other leaders to arrive. Therefore, all they did was seal off the entire courtyard to prevent Lin Xian and Ma Chao from escaping. Chapter 1978. All they did was seal off the entire courtyard to prevent Lin Xian and Ma Chao from escaping. Looking at the surrounding scene and the flickering array formation, Ma Chao's heart turned cold. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was indifferent. He stood at the side with his hands behind his back, not looking nervous at all. They were forced to do this. However, the Battle Wolf gang had gone too far. He was just retaliating. Even if he killed someone, he wouldn't care. Moreover, this might be a way to attract the attention of the Wang mansion. The surrounding crowd was shocked. Who was this kid? He actually dared to kill a core member of the Battle Wolf gang. He's definitely dead. He killed the big leader's younger brother. He's definitely an important figure. I'm afraid the big leader and the entire Battle Wolf gang won't let that kid off. That's right. He's just a hothead who just came to the Wang mansion. He probably doesn't know anything. I'm afraid he's already pissing his pants. It's better for young people to keep a low profile. Otherwise, they won't even know how they died. More and more people gathered around. The surrounding area was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. As for the innermost floor, it was completely guarded by the Battle Wolf gang. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in front of them. Following that, the crowd parted and 5 figures quickly walked over. The person in front was a burly man with a full beard. When he saw the 3 corpses in the courtyard, his face immediately became ferocious. "Damn it! Who is it? Who killed my third brother? Get out here!" He roared crazily like a crazy lion. The terrifying sound wave pierced through all directions. Feeling the sound wave, the surrounding warriors who were watching the show trembled and their faces turned pale. They quickly circulated their spirit energy and sealed their ears. There were also 4 people standing behind the lion-like man. One of them had a gloomy expression, and his appearance was similar to that of the dead third brother. He was also the burly man's brother. The other 3 people had different appearances, but without exception, their eyes were abnormally cold. Other than the third brother, the 5 people standing at this moment were the core members of the Battle Wolf gang. The entire Battle Wolf gang was formed by them. As for the warrior called Third Brother, he was the big leader's favorite younger brother. But who would have thought that he would be killed by someone? Not only did the 5 leaders come, but 300 elite members of the Battle Wolf gang also came. They had completely sealed off the surroundings, and a cold aura surrounded the entire small courtyard. The temperature in the small courtyard continued to drop, and the air was filled with endless killing intent. It was simply unbearable. Even though Ma Chao was a 6-star king, his entire body was drenched in sweat at this moment. His body even began to tremble. The reason for that was because the killing intent was simply too terrifying. In front of the 5 chiefs and 300 martial artists, he couldn't resist Fatty at all. Lin Xian was still very calm. He was like an elegant immortal king, calm and unrestrained. Seeing the arrival of the 5 leaders, he said indifferently, "This little brother of yours was too arrogant. I've already killed him. Let him be a good person in his next life." "Damn brat, you killed my third brother." Hearing Lin Xian's words, all eyes instantly fell on Lin Xian. The bearded man, in particular, had a ferocious look on his face. "I killed him because he deserved to die." Lin Xian's face also darkened. "All right, take these corpses and get lost. Otherwise, don't start a massacre." Start a massacre? Everyone's scalps went numb. This brat actually wanted to start a massacre? Did he know who he was facing? That was the Battle Wolf gang. Although it wasn't much in the Wang Mansion, it was definitely a huge monster in the periphery of the Wang Mansion. No one could compete with them. For a moment, the atmosphere became incomparably tense. Not to mention the periphery, even the news had spread to the inside of the Wang Mansion. Many people came out to watch the battle. This was also Lin Xian's goal. If he could uproot the Battle Wolf gang today, he would definitely be able to display his powerful strength. Presumably, the prince's mansion would invite him even without the examination. "Brat, which family are you from?" The leader of the Battle Wolf gang asked coldly because he felt that the identity of the person who dared to touch his Battle Wolf gang was definitely not simple. Therefore, he had to ask in advance. At the same time, the surrounding warriors of the Battle Wolf gang emitted a cold light as they looked at Lin Xian. Beside them, rays of light bloomed, forming a terrifying pressure that enveloped Lin Xian. Just the aftermath of this pressure was enough to make the surrounding warriors unable to withstand it. Their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. Ma Chao's scalp went numb. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He took a step forward and stood in front of Ma Chao. The great dragon sword soul in his body surged, completely ignoring the terrifying pressure. At the same time, he said coldly, "There's no need to ask. I don't belong to any sect. If you want to do it, just do it." Didn't belong to any sect? Hearing this, everyone was speechless. The 5 leaders of the Battle Wolf gang revealed a sinister smile. Since he didn't belong to any sect, it meant that he didn't have any backing. Even if they killed him, no one would stand up for him. Since that was the case, there was no need for them to hold back. "Die, brat." The 5 leaders on the opposite side sneered. However, Lin Xian used the Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps, and his speed reached the extreme. In an instant, he was in front of the 5 leaders. The apocalyptic black dragon, fist in his hand, rushed out quickly and blasted towards one of them. Boom! The shadow of a black dragon appeared and a destructive aura surged. In an instant, the fourth leader of the 5 leaders was sent flying. Then, his figure swayed and retreated again, returning to his original position. The whole process was so fast that the surrounding people didn't see what happened clearly. They didn't even realize that Lin Xian had moved. The fourth leader of the Battle Wolf Gang was sent flying and vomited blood. Damn it! What's going on? What happened? Why was the fourth leader of the Battle Wolf Gang sent flying? Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. The leaders roared crazily, "Brat, you're courting death." They were mad. They had so many experts, but the other party was still able to succeed. This really made them jump up and down like thunder. Lin Xian sneered. "What Battle Wolf Gang? In my opinion, you're just a bunch of useless people. You think you can bully others just because you have more people? You want to bully me with your numbers? You must be dreaming. You're no match for me in a one-on-one fight. Even if you come at me together, I'm not afraid. But this is the prince's mansion after all. If we really fight, I can't use my fists and legs. So, do you dare to fight with me outside?" Chapter 1979. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The leader of the Battle Wolf Gang said coldly. Although they only had 300 gang members this time, it was too easy to deal with one person. Hearing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. His body rose from the ground and flew into the distance. "Follow him. Don't let this kid escape." The leader of the Battle Wolf Gang waved his hand. Immediately, the surrounding 300 warriors quickly charged towards Lin Xian. The other 4 leaders also rose into the air. Although the other party had sent their fourth brother flying with a punch, they were extremely shocked. In their opinion, the other party only relied on speed and sneak attacks. If they fought head-on, the other party was definitely not their match. Therefore, they did not hesitate to chase after him. When the surrounding warriors saw this scene, they were all stunned. They did not expect that Lin Xian would dare to fight the 5 leaders of the Battle Wolf Gang and more than 300 gang members alone. How could an ordinary king fight against such a group? Perhaps only the moving mountain general. Oh, only a terrifying almighty like the Li Hua general could fight against them. How could other kings fight against so many experts? Let's go and see what's wrong with this kid. The surrounding people quickly followed after him, because they did not want to miss such an exciting battle. Ma Chao's scalp went numb. At the same time, he was extremely nervous. He also followed closely. Otherwise, the news would have spread very quickly among the people around them. In the entire mansion, hundreds of thousands of warriors outside knew about it. For a time, most of the warriors walked forward. They wanted to see what kind of confidence the other party had to dare to fight against the Battle Wolf Gang. Even those cultivators who had returned to their own places and were preparing to cultivate were alarmed. They looked at the torrent-like crowd in shock. What are they doing? Has the selection started again? How is that possible? The selection has just ended. It hasn't even been a day. How could it have started? What's going on? I've been here for several years, and I've only seen such a grand scene during the selection. But since there's no selection, why are so many people looking forward? Everyone was discussing. Obviously, these people did not understand what was going on, so they followed. Soon, they found that the people of the Battle Wolf Gang were all angry and rushing forward. Battle Wolf Gang, what are they trying to do? Could it be that you want to make a move in the prince's mansion? This group of people really don't know what's good for them. The Battle Wolf Gang can flaunt their strength in the outer regions, but in the entire Wang Mansion, they are nothing. It's only because the moving mountain general and the leaving fire general couldn't be bothered with it that they didn't expel the Battle Wolf Gang. But now, Zhanlang's men actually want to make a big fuss. Isn't he afraid of alerting the Wang Mansion and being completely eradicated by the Wang Mansion? They were too shocked. No matter how strong one was, they still had to bow down before Valurium Palace. Why was the Battle Wolf Gang so crazy today? Don't you know? There's a young man who killed the younger brother of the Battle Wolf Gang's leader and severely injured the fourth leader with a single punch. Right now, The 4 leaders of the Battle Wolf Gang are leading a group of elites from the Wolf Gang to chase after that kid. What? Who could be so strong? Could he be a peerless genius from some clan? He's not a peerless genius from a great clan. I heard him say that he's a loose cultivator who doesn't belong to any sect. What? A loose cultivator dares to be so arrogant? Come, let's go take a look. Everyone discussed spiritedly. At the same time, they moved their bodies and quickly followed him. More and more people joined the group. The scene was like an ordinary selection in the Wong Mansion. There was a sea of people and an unusually lively atmosphere. As for the people from the Battle Wolf Gang, they were gnashing their teeth in anger. Especially the 4 gang leaders, their faces were gloomy. First of all, they hadn't expected to cause such a huge commotion. More than 100,000 people had rushed over to watch. This scene could only be compared to the selection competition. They were afraid of alerting the Wong Mansion, the moving mountain general, and the leaving fire general. But at the same time, they were unwilling to accept this outcome. The kid in front of them was flying slowly and provoking them. This was intolerable. Therefore, they gritted their teeth and swore to kill him. Brother Lin, what do you want? You're not really going to fight these people, are you? Beside him, Ma Chao was terrified. Apart from the moving mountain general and the leaving fire general, he'd never seen anyone who could fight against hundreds of people alone. Brother Ma, to tell you the truth, I'm here to join the Valurium Palace. I wanted to wait until the next selection, but it seems that I can't wait that long. Ma Chao was very confused. What did this have to do with the Battle Wolf Gang? But in the next moment, he was so shocked that he almost bit off his own tongue. This was because Lin Xian continued, if I were to kill these experts of the Battle Wolf Gang in front of everyone on the training field, don't you think that will attract the Wong Mansion's attention? I'm sure they'll invite me to join Valurium Palace then. What? You want to fight them alone? Just to show off to the Wong Mansion? Ma Chao was shocked. This was too much. One mistake and he'd be slaughtered by the Battle Wolf Gang. There were hundreds of them. Many of them were 6 Star Kings. Could he really fight them? Unless he was a great expert, even the best of geniuses wouldn't be able to. Don't worry, I'm confident. Lin Xian nodded slightly. He was indeed confident because his combat strength had reached the level of a great expert. Fighting against 300 elites was no problem at all. Brother Ma, blades don't have eyes later. You should watch from the crowd. All right, Ma Chao sighed. The current situation was still beyond his understanding. Therefore, he couldn't help much. He pushed himself into the crowd and slowly followed. In front of him, Lin Xian strolled leisurely as if he was taking a stroll, heading towards the vast arena. Gradually, the crowd noticed that the kid was going to the Wong Mansion's arena. The people from the Battle Wolf Gang also laughed sinisterly. They were actually going to the martial arts practice field for the final battle. It just so happened that the martial arts practice field was big enough to accommodate more than 100,000 people. It was more than enough for them to fight, and they didn't have to worry about destroying the Wong Mansion. In an instant, the Battle Wolf Gang's experts revealed sinister smiles. If the kid went somewhere else, they might be worried. However, the martial arts practice field was different. It was a place for fighting. Even powerful beings could fight there. Therefore, they didn't have to worry at all. It didn't take long for Lin Xian to arrive at the arena. His figure flashed, and he stood on the arena. With a wave of his red sleeve, he stood with his hands behind his back like a god of war. Chapter 1980. With a wave of his red sleeves, Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back like a god of war. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, the 4 leaders of the Battle Wolf Gang led 300 elites and landed quickly. They surrounded Lin Xian. Behind them, more than 400,000 martial artists were watching. For a moment, the originally empty and quiet martial arts practice field became lively again. Such a big commotion naturally attracted the attention of the people in the Wong Mansion. When the people in the Wong Mansion found out that it was the Battle Wolf Gang that was causing trouble, they frowned. Some even threatened to suppress them. However, when the matter reached the ears of the moving mountain general and Li Hua general, the situation was different. When the 2 generals found out that it was a newcomer who wanted to challenge the entire Battle Wolf Gang, they were immediately interested. Then, they told the people in the Wang mansion not to make a move. As long as the newcomer did not destroy the Wang mansion, they would let him fight. In fact, two of the great generals even decided to watch from the shadows. Not only that, many people in the Wang mansion also went because they were curious about who had the guts to challenge the entire Battle Wolf gang. The moving mountain general was also excited. His bronze eyes shone brightly. Which family's little doll is so daring? On the other side, Li Hua general also narrowed his eyes. I wonder if he's a peerless genius or an idiot? If he's just playing to the gallery, then he deserves to be killed. If he can really fight against the Battle Wolf gang, it's not impossible to recruit him. Now, the two of them were most concerned about whether Lin Xian could fight against the Battle Wolf gang, or if he was just playing to the gallery to attract everyone's attention. In the training field, Lin Xian faced the 4 leaders and 300 elites. He looked calm and fearless. As for the surrounding martial artists, they were whispering to each other, their faces filled with shock. Is this guy really going to fight against so many experts? Is he crazy? Who does he think he is? An almighty? I'm afraid that among the almighties, no one can do this. Those princes and princes should be able to do it too. But who is he? He's a peerless genius with a terrifying identity. How can this brat be compared to a prince? The crowd discussed animatedly. Most of them shook their heads and sneered. They believed that it was impossible for Lin Xian to resist. This is the grave you chose for yourself? The gang leaders sneered. No matter where you run to, we won't let you go today. The second faction master's expression was also ferocious. The remaining 2 faction masters also snorted coldly. A fierce killing intent burst out from his eyes. Lin Xian sneered, "Cut the crap. Make your move." He didn't pull out the 9 underworld devil sword because he didn't need to use it to deal with these people. When the members of the Battle Wolf gang saw that Lin Xian was actually so arrogant, they immediately roared in anger. Soon after, the big gang leader gave the order, and 300 elite martial artists quickly charged at Lin Xian. Kill. The murderous aura of those people was like smoke signals, connecting heaven and earth. Every single one of them was incomparably terrifying, like a god of death. So many people were charging forward, covering the sky and covering the earth. Their momentum was terrifying. Even the 100,000 spectators were trembling, their faces pale. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly, and a fierce light burst out from his eyes. Then, his body swayed, and he completely disappeared into the void. Whoosh! In an instant, he appeared in front of the 2nd faction master and the 5th faction master. Then, he quickly punched out the Armageddon Black Dragon Fist. Black aura surrounded his fists, and 2 dragon heads fiercely bombarded the 2 of them. Roar! Boom! A loud dragon roar sounded, and a destructive aura swept out in all directions. The void was instantly torn apart, and countless cracks appeared. A terrifying aura enveloped the entire martial arts practice field. It was as if a peerless divine dragon was looking down on the common people. The 2nd faction master and the 5th faction master had no power to resist at all. The 2 of them were hit by the black dragon heads. Then, their bodies flew out like a kite with a broken string. Seeing this scene, the big gang leader and the other members of the Battle Wolf gang were all stunned, because they didn't believe that the other party was so powerful. If the other party had sent the 4th faction master flying with 1 punch, it was because of his speed and sneak attack. But now, under the siege of so many people, the other party was still able to easily injure the 2nd faction master and the 5th faction master. This was definitely not a sneak attack. The 100,000 spectators were also stunned. In their opinion, the 4 faction masters led 300 elites to fight against a young man. This was definitely a one-sided massacre. They were afraid that the young man would be blasted into pieces in an instant. However, things went beyond their expectations. The young man was not killed, but the 2 faction masters of the Battle Wolf gang were directly sent flying. This scene deeply stimulated them. However, this was only the beginning. After the 2 faction masters were sent flying, the other 300 elites were also sent flying one by one. None of them could withstand Lin Xian's punch. What did I see? The Battle Wolf gang is being beaten up? F***CK. I must be in an illusion. Who can slap me? Slap, slap, slap. Many slaps were heard, and then everyone's cheeks turned red. However, they found that the scene in front of them was still continuing, and they were getting more and more shocked. How is this possible? Everyone stuttered because they could not accept this scene at all. Just half a day ago, they had seen a similar scene. That was during the preliminaries, when 1,000 experts besieged the mountain-moving general. In the end, the mountain-moving general was like a mountain god, sending everyone flying. Only a few people could pass the test. The scene now was very similar to the previous scene. Lin Xian was like a god of war, shuttling through the 300 elites quickly. Every punch he threw out sent someone flying. It was because of the similarity that the crowd was even more shocked. One had to know that the mountain-moving general was an almighty, and not an ordinary almighty. He was an extremely powerful almighty. Only then could he fight against 1,000 experts. However, the young man in front of them was at most a 6-star king. How could he fight against the 300 elites and the 4 faction masters of the Battle Wolf gang? However, no matter how shocked they were, this scene was really happening. Soon, more than 100 elites were sent flying or lying on the ground, unable to fight at all. As for the remaining 2 faction masters, they were sent flying as well. This was especially true when the great gang master was heavily injured and coughed up blood from a single punch. The remaining 100 or so elites all fled one after another, because they did not dare to continue fighting. Even the faction master and half of the elites were defeated. The remaining people were not a match at all. Therefore, they tried their best to escape. Humph. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Today's battle was a show for the people in the prince's mansion. At this time, how could he let go? Chapter 1981. Therefore, when he waved his fists, the shadows of dragons appeared. The sky was filled with the shadows of the black dragons. Along with his fists, the remaining 100 or so martial artists were sent flying in an instant. Blood splattered everywhere. Other than Lin Xian, no one else could stand up. Silence. Absolute silence. None of the 100,000 people in the martial arts practice field made a sound. They were all completely stunned. Not to mention these people, even the experts in the prince's mansion were shocked. This guy actually managed to do it. General Li Hua's handsome face was filled with shock. Beside him, the mountain-like moving mountain general's eyes lit up. He trembled with excitement. Genius. He's definitely a genius in battle. I didn't expect to meet such a genius. His strength is definitely not inferior to those princes. In front of the crowd, Ma Chao was trembling with excitement. He didn't expect to see such a scene. Previously, he was still worried about Lin Xian. He thought that Lin Xian was too arrogant to challenge the entire Battle Wolf gang alone. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case at all. Lin Xian had absolute confidence and strength to crush the Battle Wolf gang. Who exactly was he? Was he really an itinerant cultivator? Ma Chao was bewildered because he had never heard of an itinerant cultivator with such heaven-defying combat strength. Moreover, Lin Xian was only a young man in his 20s. The others also came back to their senses and looked at the scene in front of them. They were immediately amazed. Exclamations of surprise sounded, shattering the clouds in the sky. Then, the sun shone on the ground and shone on the martial arts practice field. Lin Xian was bathed in sunlight like a god of war, stepping on more than 300 martial artists. At this moment, his majesty was deeply imprinted in the hearts of the 100,000 people. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the sky suddenly fluctuated violently. Then, the 100,000 martial artists raised their heads and looked at the sky. Then, they exclaimed. That was because they realized that figures were descending from the sky like dark clouds. Of the 2 people in the front, one was as tall as a mountain and was filled with explosive power. The other was a 16 or 17-year-old young man. He had delicate features and looked like a fairy child. The aura of these 2 people was so strong that it suppressed everything. Moving Mountain General, leaving Fire General. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect that the 2 generals would actually come to the martial arts practice field. One could imagine how sensational this battle was. Behind the two generals, there were also dozens of elite experts from the king's mansion. At this moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian as if they were looking at a monster. Lin Xian smiled as he looked at the moving mountain general and the leaving fire general. He knew that he had achieved his goal. Since these two generals were here, it was obvious that these people had seen the previous battle. He believed that he could easily enter Valurium Palace with his strength. "Kid, what's your name?" General Li Hua asked in a deep voice. There was a strange flame in his eyes, as if it could burn everything in time. Frost appeared in Lin Xian's eyes, blocking the heat. Then, he said, Junior Lin Xian greets the two great generals. Lin Xian? General Li Hua muttered. His eyes flickered as if he was reminiscing. In the Tai dynasty, which young genius had this name? But after thinking for a while, he realized that there was none. Moving mountain general on the side obviously did not think so much. He laughed, his sonorous voice echoing in the air. Then, his enormous body walked out and looked at Lin Xian. Kid, do you dare fight me? What? Moving mountain general wants to fight this kid? The 100,000 cultivators in the martial arts practice field were in an uproar. This was too shocking. The moving mountain great general was a mighty figure with terrifying strength. Although the kid in front of them had defeated the Battle Wolf Gang's 300 elites and 4 gang leaders, it was still shocking. But they did not think that the kid in front of them could contend with moving mountain general. Even Lin Xian was stunned. Could it be that the mountain-moving great general had seen through his true strength? But that shouldn't be. Although the combat strength he had displayed before was shocking, he had not fully displayed it. Moving mountain general should not have seen through it. But even if he had seen through it, so what? His true combat strength had reached the level of a great expert. So in the next moment, Lin Xian nodded and said, Sure. Wow. The crowd was shocked. They roared madly and their voices resounded through the sky. This was because the battle between the moving mountain general and the younger generation was already very shocking. But what shocked them even more was that the young man in front of them did not even blink and agreed without hesitation. What was he relying on? The news spread like a storm. Suddenly, the cultivators who had not rushed over were all moved and gathered there. In an instant, the number of people increased again and reached more than 200,000. Other than those who were in seclusion and did not come out, the rest of the people all came to the martial arts practice field. This scene was not much different from the one that had taken place during the selection. At this moment, more than 200,000 pairs of eyes were fixed on Lin Xian. They wanted to see through him, because they really did not understand where he got his confidence and reliance from. He's a young genius, disregarding everything else. Just his courage alone is enough to instantly kill the vast majority of people. An old man in the crowd sighed. Yeah, I've been here for 2 years, but I haven't entered the manor yet. And I heard that he's successfully attracted the attention of 2 great generals after only 1 day. It's only a matter of time before he enters the manor. Is this the difference in talent? The difference between a peerless genius and an ordinary king? It's so huge. Everyone was envious. Ever since Valurium Manor had started recruiting, no one had ever attracted the attention of 2 great generals in a single day like Lin Xian. And he had even entered Valurium Manor. This was definitely a record that had been set, a legend that had been broken. In front of him, the mountain-moving great general was also stunned. He did not expect Lin Xian to agree so readily. Then, he laughed loudly. Good kid, you're really my type. Don't worry, I won't bully you. I will suppress my cultivation to the level of a 6-star king and fight you on the same level. A battle of the same level. The crowd was even more shocked. This was definitely going to be an earth-shattering battle. Lin Xian's eyes also flashed. He did not expect moving mountain general to suppress his cultivation and fight him on the same level. But he could not ask for more. Moving mountain general was definitely an elite among experts. Even if he suppressed his cultivation, his combat strength and experience were not something an ordinary 6-star king could compare to. He could probably kill a 6-star king instantly. Chapter 1982. However, Lin Xian was also someone who could instantly kill a 6-star king. Therefore, he had very few opponents. Now that he had met someone who was on par with him, he naturally wouldn't miss it. Boom. Seeing that Lin Xian had accepted the challenge, the moving mountain general laughed heartily. In the next moment, he stomped his foot on the ground, and the entire ground began to tremble rapidly. The members of the Battle Wolf gang on the ground were all sent flying. In an instant, the entire training ground became incomparably clean. The members of the Battle Wolf gang who were sent flying all screamed in agony. However, they didn't dare to resist. The moving mountain general was an extremely terrifying existence. If they angered him, he would probably kill all of them with a slap. Therefore, they could only grit their teeth and endure the pain as they quickly left and retreated into the crowd. Originally, they had planned to gather more people to take revenge on the other party. But now, it seemed like revenge was useless. The kid in front of them had caught the eye of the moving mountain general. No matter the outcome of this battle, the other party would definitely be famous in the Wang Mansion. Such a person would be valued by the Wang Mansion. No matter how strong the Battle Wolf gang was, they wouldn't dare to go against such a person. Therefore, they quickly fled with their tails between their legs. Boom, boom, boom. As for the moving mountain general, he let out a furious roar as a khaki-colored light quickly appeared on his body. It intertwined in the air and formed a yellow chain that instantly bound his body before disappearing into his body. In the next moment, the moving mountain general's cultivation rapidly dropped from the almighty level to a 6-star king. He has indeed suppressed his cultivation, more than 200,000 people exclaimed. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. If that's the case, then I'll offend you. Since the other party had suppressed his cultivation, he would also go all out. In the next moment, 2 black dragons appeared on his body and coiled around his hands. A violent and destructive aura quickly surged out and shot into the sky. At this moment, Lin Xian's black hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were as sharp as a blade. However, he was like a demon king looking down on everyone. What a powerful destructive aura. Kid, I didn't misjudge you. Take my punch. The moving mountain general laughed loudly and then punched out. Although he had suppressed his cultivation base to that of a 6-star king, the mountain-moving great general's strength was not something that anyone could withstand. This punch was absolutely terrifying as it directly shattered the void. The fist seemed to be made of gold as it arrived in front of Lin Xian. Ha! Lin Xian also let out a low roar and waved his fist. The black dragon's aura spread out from his body and transformed into a dragon head that instantly rushed out. Boom! Boom! The two collided, and a shocking sound rang out, causing the entire sky to shake. What? He actually managed to resist it? He wasn't sent flying? Heavens, is this true? Everyone cried out in surprise when they saw this scene. This was because Lin Xian wasn't sent flying by a single punch like the other kings. Instead, he was able to contend against the mountain-moving great general. This was inconceivable. It should be known that even if the moving mountain general suppressed his cultivation, he would still be able to instantly kill an ordinary 6-star king. But now, a young man was actually able to contend with the mountain-moving general. This was simply too shocking. Good lad, you're really strong. This fist technique of yours should be very unusual. But from now on, you'll have to be careful, the moving mountain general said loudly. His voice was like thunder. As soon as he finished speaking, his huge body suddenly grew in size. His originally huge arms doubled in size once again. Boom! This punch was enough to destroy everything. The power of this punch was simply too great. It had exceeded the previous ones. Hence, in an instant, the black dragon fist that Lin Xian had thrown out was directly shattered. Lin Xian was also forced to take a few steps back. The great dragon sword soul transport station in his body destroyed the aftershock of the energy. Then, Lin Xian stopped moving. In the next moment, he opened his palms. On each of his fingers, there was an image of a dragon. Then, he slapped forward. The huge black palm covered the sky and the terrifying dragon roar filled the air. It filled the sky and enveloped the moving mountain general. Boom! The moving mountain general swung his fist, and hit the huge black palm. Immediately, a muffled thunder-like sound rang out. The two of them didn't stop attacking. Their fight was earth-shattering. Terrifying energy surged in all directions. Too strong. This lad is really too strong. He could actually compete with the moving mountain general in terms of strength. Yeah, it's too terrifying. Although the moving mountain general has suppressed his cultivation, his strength hasn't decreased by much. What kind of body constitution does this lad have? It's too terrifying. Could it be that he has one of the legendary powerful body constitutions? I don't know, but his fist technique is too terrifying. That destructive aura makes me shudder. Discussions broke out one after another. It was obvious that everyone was shocked that Lin Xian was able to withstand so many blows from the mountain-moving general. Those from the Wang mansion were also shocked. Li Hua general also squinted his eyes and stared at the two figures in the field. The moving mountain general was even more surprised. Lad, I didn't expect you to be so strong that you can compete with me. But next, let's try out the superpower. As soon as he finished speaking, the moving mountain general's fist suddenly shone brightly. A golden light shot up into the sky and pierced through the void. Previously, it was only the strength of his physical body. Now, it was not only the strength of his physical body, but also the power of his superpower. This frightening golden fist shook the void and blasted towards Lin Xian at high speed, making a violent trembling sound. The golden light made the hundreds of thousands of people unable to open their eyes. Ha! Lin Xian also shouted coldly. On his palm, not only was there a destructive aura like a black dragon, but there was also a layer of blue frost covering it. Freezing the void, it met the golden fist head-on. In the sky, the intense collision was like the sound of thunder, shaking the entire sky. The two forces were like tidal waves, constantly colliding with each other. Fortunately, the Wang Mansion's martial arts practice field was a place that was specially used for battles. It could withstand a battle between almighties. Otherwise, the attack alone was more than enough to shatter everything here into pieces. Buzz. After the punch, the moving mountain general's bell-like eyes shone brightly, forming rays of golden light. They were like balls of golden flames burning. Those sharp eyes made people unable to look directly at them. One could imagine how terrifying the moving mountain general was. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the moving mountain general's fist loosened and turned into a palm, pressing down from the sky. Mountains began to appear in his palm. This scene was too terrifying. Those mountains appeared in the void and were being dragged by the moving mountain general, pressing down rapidly. The sky was covered in darkness. Mountains stood tall and majestic, and there were even birds and beasts on top of them. It was as if they were real. What kind of superpower is this? Many people exclaimed. Chapter 1983. What superpower is that? Many people exclaimed. However, someone screamed, Mountain palm! It's the mountain palm. The mountain palm was a terrifying palm technique. When the palm was thrown out, it was as though a real mountain had appeared in the sky. It was so oppressive that the crowd couldn't breathe. This palm was too terrifying. The mountains in the sky were earth-shattering, and Lin Xian was enveloped in an instant. Whoosh! Lin Xian looked solemn. He took a deep breath, and the great dragon sword soul in his body quickly rotated. Then, mysterious sword runes appeared under his feet and quickly spread out in all directions. The entire martial arts practice field formed a mysterious sword array. Then, blood-red sword chi gathered in the sword array and quickly slashed towards the sky. It was as though it could destroy everything. The blood-red sword chi was vast and mighty like rivers of blood. It carried a monstrous, murderous aura. Clang, 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 clang. The blood-red sword chi rushed out and collided with the mountains in the sky. The terrifying sound tore through the void, causing more than 200,000 people to feel a piercing pain in their ears. Many people even fainted on the spot. The superpowers of the two were too terrifying. Whether it was the mountain palm or the demon-slaying sword, they were both extremely terrifying superpowers. The moment they appeared, the weather changed. Buzz. The void trembled. A snow-covered mountain that was thousands of feet tall was being dragged by the mountain general. It seemed to be cutting through time and space as it quickly pressed down. Boom! Behind Lin Xian, a huge blood-red sword she gathered and formed a blood-red dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The terrifying dragon claws grabbed the void and met the attack. Crack! 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 The dragon claws cracked the mountain. However, the huge rocks on top of it also shattered the sword-chi dragon claws. This intense battle left the 200,000 over martial artists extremely shocked. Even the people from the Wang mansion were staring with their eyes wide open. They couldn't believe that a young man could hold his own against the mountain-moving general for so long. Kid, you're amazing. Take my last move. If you can take it, I'll let you enter the Wang mansion. With that, the mountain-moving general kept waving his palms. Suddenly, 13 huge mountain peaks appeared in the sky, one after another, as if they were demonic peaks that reached the heavens. They filled the void. Immediately, the entire sky darkened. It was as if the 13 mountains in the sky would descend at any moment. A vast aura that could crush the heavens and earth quickly spread out in all directions. That aura was simply too sharp. It could definitely suppress everything in the world. Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn as well, because the 13,000-meter-tall mountains posed a huge threat to him. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared. The demon-slaying sword formation under his feet quickly intertwined and formed 9 gigantic black tortoises that soared into the sky. Divine tortoise carrying mountains. 9 huge black tortoises, completely condensed from sword chi and full of spiritual power, rushed into the sky like real divine beasts. They let out loud and clear roars. Then, the 9 divine turtles lifted the 13 demonic mountains in the sky. Boom! Boom! The sound of violent collisions rang out, and every one of them made people's hearts jump. He actually wanted to completely hold back the 13 huge mountains. Everyone was shocked by this scene, because the best way to resist this move was to dodge quickly or find a weak point and attack with all his might. But now, Lin Xian wanted to forcefully hold back the 13 huge mountains. This was definitely the most difficult and unrewarding method. The mountain-moving general was also stunned. Then, he shook his head. Impossible. You can't possibly hold back my 13 mountains. He did not believe that Lin Xian could hold back his 13 mountains. However, in the next moment, he was stunned. Because in the sky, the 9 huge black tortoises were roaring crazily. Their bodies were shining brightly. In the end, they actually managed to hold back the 13 mountains in the sky. Otherwise, they would have dragged the 13 mountains into the sky and disappeared into the void. What? He really did it. What kind of superpower is that? It's too scary. He can actually resist the mountain-moving general's mountain palm? That kid really did it? The mountain-moving general's eyes flickered. Then, he retracted his aura. He had said that the 13 mountains would be his last move. If his opponent could withstand it, then he would not attack again. Kid, you're very strong. You've exceeded my expectations. The mountain-moving general looked at Lin Xian and said in a low voice, I will keep my promise and recruit you into Valyria Manor. The 200,000 cultivators were in an uproar when they heard this. Then, they all looked at Lin Xian with burning eyes. Entering the Valyrian Palace was something they'd always dreamed of. It was also the reason for their visit. However, some of them had been here for several years and had yet to enter. And yet, a young man had successfully entered Valyria Manor on the first day. This kind of heaven-defying speed made everyone envious. But there was nothing they could do. They had seen with their own eyes how strong the young man was. He was able to fight the mountain-moving general to a standstill even with his cultivation suppressed. Even if he did not enter now, he would be able to do so the next time. Therefore, they could only be envious. By Qianqi, the mountain-moving general shouted coldly, This subordinate is here. At this moment, a middle-aged man in white robes stepped forward. He was very respectful. Arrange for this child to be sent to your Golden Sword Peak. Yes. The middle-aged man in white robes quickly responded. Then, He looked at Lin Xian. From now on, you are a member of Valurium Manor's Golden Sword Peak. Golden Sword Peak? What's that? Lin Xian was very confused. He didn't know much about Valurium Manor at all. Valurium Manor isn't just a simple manor. It also governs an endless territory. There are 5 branches under Valurium Manor. Golden Sword Peak is one of them. Those who pass the selection will be randomly assigned to one of the 5 branches. You will follow me to Golden Sword Peak. So that's how it is. Lin Xian nodded to show that he understood. Then he said, "Then I'll have to trouble you, senior." Although Lin Xian's performance during the battle with Moving Mountain was extremely domineering and looked down on the world, but now he didn't seem arrogant at all. The middle-aged man in white robes breathed a sigh of relief when he saw his amiable attitude. If Lin Xian was an unruly person, it would be very difficult for them to get along with him. But now, Lin Xian was so amiable. The middle-aged man in white robes was very happy. "All right, child. Follow him to Golden Sword Peak," the mountain-moving general said. Then, he looked at the middle-aged man in white robes. "Tell your peak lord to take good care of this child. If his cultivation progress is delayed in any way, don't blame me for personally visiting your peak lord to reason with him." Although the mountain range in front of them looked very close, there was still a long way to go if they really wanted to walk. Therefore, during this time, the white-robed middle-aged man said in a low voice, "Let me give you a general overview of Valurium Manor and Golden Sword Peak. The Tai dynasty has a total of 27 imperial mansions. Valurium Palace is one of them. There are 5 great peaks beneath Valurium Manor. Golden Sword Peak is one of them. Our Golden Sword Peak is not the strongest, but we are not the weakest either. There are many people in Golden Sword Peak. Just the cultivators alone number in the hundreds of thousands. However, there are only a few tens of thousands who are trained as core disciples. You are very lucky to be one of them. Our Peak Lord is the leader of Golden Sword Peak. Under him are 9 great elders, 72 envoys, and 1,000 attendants. Every attendant has several hundred to several thousand cultivators under them. After you enter Golden Sword Peak, you will be randomly assigned to one of the 1,000 attendants. From today onwards, you belong to Jin Jianfeng. You are also a member of Valurium Manor. However, while you enjoy the resources, you will also work for Valurium Manor. Of course, if you do a good job, you will be rewarded handsomely. You might even be accepted as a disciple by one of the 72 envoys. There are even those who are heaven-defying enough to be chosen by the 9 great elders. Then you really will reach the heavens in a single bound. Everyone was very excited when they heard this. However, it was at this time that a young man asked, "Senior, what is your position in Golden Sword Peak?" They were very curious. Although this white-robed middle-aged man hadn't become a great expert yet, his aura was enough to make them feel a sense of fear. There was no need to think. He must be one of the strongest 6-star kings. The white-robed middle-aged man didn't get angry when he heard the question. Instead, he said, "I am a disciple of the 7th elder of the 9 great elders. Of course, I am just a good-for-nothing disciple. My senior brothers are much stronger than I am." The 7th elder. Everyone was surprised when they heard this. Lin Xian nodded slightly. It seemed that the 9 great elders were second only to the Peak Lord. The white-robed middle-aged man in front of them was a disciple of the 7th elder. He must be a very honorable person. The white-robed middle-aged man smiled. "You don't have to envy me. If you perform well, there is a very good chance that you will be accepted as a disciple by one of the 9 great elders." Everyone clenched their fists when they heard this. They swore that they would do their best to perform well and strive to become a disciple of one of the elders. Lin Xian was much calmer. Becoming a disciple of an elder was not his goal. His goal was to enter the core of the Tai dynasty. Of course, this matter had to be done step by step. Gradually, they approached the huge mountain range in front of them. Soon, an extremely powerful spiritual energy rushed towards them. As for the crowd, they slowly descended. Lin Xian followed the white-robed middle-aged man and the others and landed together. However, at this time, he felt his heart palpitate. This was because he suddenly realized that behind the mountain range, there were 7 bright lights that connected to form a huge circle of light that flickered there. The 7 lights were very blurry, but they emitted a power that made one's heart tremble. Even a great expert would tremble in front of this power. Whoosh! Lin Xian took a deep breath to resist the pressure from the 7 lights. When he landed on the ground, he frowned and asked, "Senior, when I landed just now, I saw 7 rays of light in the distance. What is that?" "You saw it?" The white-robed middle-aged man was surprised. He then looked at Lin Xian carefully and said, "That is the depths of the Valurium Palace. It is the core of the Valurium Palace. Ordinary people can't even get close to it. Even I am not qualified. I'm afraid that other than the 5 peak lords and the elders, no one else is qualified to enter that place." The core of the Valurium Palace. Lin Xian was surprised. The Valurium Palace was indeed powerful. The pressure from the 7 lights was too terrifying. Among these people, some were riding on red-crowned cranes, some were riding on clouds, and some were walking in the air. They were using all kinds of methods as if they were immortals. Hoo. Their speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of the main hall. Then, with a flash, those figures arrived in the main hall. At this time, the white-robed middle-aged man bowed respectfully to the various elders and emissaries. Behind him, Lin Xian and the other young geniuses also quickly bowed. Lin Xian knew that these should be the elders. However, there were not many of them. Only 4 of them came. There were also some others. They should be the emissaries of the 72 emissaries. In total, there were more than 10 of them. These people were extremely powerful. Among them, there were a few elders. Their eyes flickered with a fierce aura. Their auras had also reached the almighty level. Among them, the weakest was a 6-star king at the great perfection level. They were only 1 step away from the almighty level. The powerful ones were unfathomable. Because they were all almighties, the difference in strength was very obvious. Obviously, these almighties were not ordinary almighties. They were the very powerful ones. As soon as these people entered the main hall, they began to size up Lin Xian and the others. The white-robed middle-aged man stood respectfully at the side, while Lin Xian and the other young warriors stood in front. There were only about 20 of them. At this moment, they were shrouded by the gazes of those almighties. These people felt extremely pressured. Lin Xian was fine because it was not his first time dealing with almighties. Therefore, he was still able to resist the pressure of such almighties. However, the other young martial artists were unable to resist. Fortunately, these almighties were only sizing them up and did not exert any special pressure on them. Otherwise, these people would not be able to withstand it. Buzz. At this moment, the sound of air being torn apart suddenly came from outside the hall. Then, a huge golden light sword in the sky quickly rushed over. The light sword flickered with an incomparable golden light, illuminating the entire sky. In an instant, the sword light arrived in front of the main hall. In the next moment, it disappeared. In the main hall, there were 2 more figures. Lin Xian and the others turned their heads and saw a man and a woman. The man was wearing a black robe and looked extraordinarily handsome. As for the women, they were all wearing long purple dresses and had beautiful appearances. Both of them looked to be about 30 years old, but that was not their real age. As for their auras, they had become even more powerful. They had already reached the almighty level. It seemed that their auras were even more powerful than those of these elders. They are also elders? Lin Xian was slightly surprised. The auras of these 2 people were very powerful. Greetings, guardians. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the white robe bowed respectfully. The other elders in the main hall also nodded slightly. The envoys also bowed. No need to be so polite. The Peak Master is in seclusion and has no time to come out, so the 2 of us are here, the woman in the purple dress said coldly. At this moment, the man in the black robe also spoke. Just do as you did before. Yes. The middle-aged man in the white robe bowed slightly, and the envoys of the elders in front also invited the 2 guardians in. Lin Xian and the others were puzzled, but at this moment, the middle-aged man in the white robe sent a voice transmission. The two guardians had a very special status, second only to the hall master, and even higher than the 9 elders. However, they usually did not care about the secular world, so they did not expect to come this time. The two of them sat on all the elders' seats and then closed their eyes slightly. The few elders were also sizing up Lin Xian and the others, but did not say anything. However, these elders did not come alone, and they brought some young warriors with them. It seemed that they were about the same age as Lin Xian and the others. These people also looked around and could not move their eyes away from Lin Xian and the others. Then, the corners of their mouths curled into a cold smile. Among them, a skinny young man shook his head slightly. These people's aptitude is too ordinary. How did they pass the test? Could it be that there are no more outstanding people coming this time? These people who could follow the elders here must be of extraordinary status, so at this moment, they also began to discuss in low voices. Chapter 1986. Hearing this, the warriors around Lin Xian frowned. Some of them even snorted, showing their dissatisfaction. That was because they had gone through a lot of hardships to get here. However, they were being called ordinary. How could these geniuses accept this? Even Lin Xian frowned slightly. It seemed that the young men in front of him were the disciples of the elders. The auras of those people were strong, and their strength far surpassed the geniuses around him. Moreover, if they were accepted as disciples by the elders, their talent must not be bad. Therefore, those people looked down on these newcomers. Lin Xian was relatively calm in the face of such discussions. This was because he no longer needed to rely on other people's comments to boost his confidence. However, the young geniuses around him were indignant. Yes, there isn't even a late-stage 6-star king among these people. It seems that their cultivation is really weak. Not only that, but they are also relatively old. Although resources are also needed for cultivation in the future, talent is still the most important. Without talent, it would be a waste of resources no matter how much you give them. Indeed, there was a popular saying in the cultivation world. Talent determined the upper limit. With the same amount of resources, the more talented one was, the faster one's cultivation would rise. If one's talent was ordinary, although they could rise quickly in the early stages with a huge amount of resources, their speed would slow down when they reached a certain level. They might even never be able to break through. This was the difference in talent. In the eyes of the elders and disciples, the people below were also ordinary. The elders and disciples still wanted to say something, but at this moment, the purple-robed woman sitting above suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Immediately, she emitted a sharp aura. Then, the elders and disciples all shut their mouths, not daring to speak. At this moment, the white-robed youth, by Qianqi, also stood up and bowed to the left and right guardians and the elders. Then, he said, "Seniors, allow me to introduce these people to you." These young warriors were all selected by the moving mountain general and the leaving fire general. They are the people who can enter the prince's mansion this time. The white-robed middle-aged man introduced them one by one. He recounted the performance of these people in the selection competition to the elders and seniors. He spoke very carefully and did not miss a single detail. The entire hall was silent. Only the white-clothed middle-aged man's words echoed in the hall. However, the elders remained silent. Even the protector's eyes were flickering. However, he had no intention of asking. This meant that they were not very interested. Although their disciples had been stopped by the protector, the elders still agreed with their disciples' thoughts. By Qianqi, your eyesight is getting worse and worse. What kind of disciple does old seventh teach? This red-robed elder was the 8th elder. By Qianqi's master was the 7th elder, and the two of them were not on good terms. Therefore, when he saw Bai Qianqi mention an early-stage 6-star king, the 8th elder sneered. Bai Qianqi also snorted coldly in his heart. He did not have a good impression of the 8th elder. However, the other party was an elder, and he did not dare to openly contradict him, because if he did, he would be punished by Jin Jianfeng. However, The other party's arrogant attitude really pissed him off. Therefore, he planned to use Lin Xian to contradict the other party. Since the other party looked down on Lin Xian, he wanted to see what the Eighth Elder's expression would be when he mentioned Lin Xian's achievements. At this moment, the purple-robed woman also spoke. "Oh, there's one more person you haven't introduced? You left him for last. Could it be that there's something special about this kid?" As a protector, the purple-robed woman was relatively patient. Therefore, she asked in a deep voice, "To be honest, Protector, this little brother is really a little special. Moreover, I believe that with this little brother's talent, ordinary elders are really not qualified to take him as a disciple." Speaking of this, she glanced at the Eighth Elder. "You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.